Oh my gosh. World's group draw has occurred. I need to keep my voice down because Kobe's sleeping in the other room. In the same way he had to keep his voice down because I was sleeping in the other room when he did the dive earlier. We've got new sub alerts right now, which are going a little bonkers. We're having some issues with that. We're going to fix that, hopefully. Those are courtesy of Nerd or Die, who hooked us up. Shout out to them. But we have, because it's the Worlds episode, we're going international with this episode. And we've got not just one, but two guests joining us this week. First off, before we get to them, my constant co-host Mark Zimmerman is here. How's it going, Mark?
It's great. I had the dive post group draw breakdown show at like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I slept from about 11 to 3, and then I had to go in for call time because I was in the studio because obviously I'm not going to do the show. We're at Ashley's in this apartment. So I go into the studio, and it's like a big quarantine thing, do that, came home, slept another 4 hours. So I got 8 hours about, just broken up a bunch.
So Mark, I just want to, two things here. One, I'm pretty sure Azale did it, and Joanne is in his apartment, and Kobe did it, and I'm in Kobe's apartment. So I'm just pointing out that like other people were doing it in the apartment with sleeping people.
I don't know what Azale's apartment setup is, so I think it's a little weird to assume one apartment size fits all. And second, Kobe hates you, which is why he's not going into the office, and he's trying to make your existence more annoying because you will not get him a cat.
So anyway, our guest this week, first off, we have the spiciest commodity in the off season coming up, and that's free agent Kelsey Moser. Not a free agent yet. Nobody message her. Because that would be poaching. But Kelsey Mosey, how's it going, Kelsey?
Not bad. I definitely want to reiterate that I'm still under contract, just in a way that Mark Zimmerman also protected himself from his bosses,
Travis likes to say shit and put words in our mouths, and we're like, whoa, no. I definitely am not saying that just because I retweeted it.
Yeah, it's a fun time. I think everyone here is adjusting to sleep schedule, except for, of course, Hysterics, who I believe is actually in China. So whatever happens.
Yeah. 10 a.m. in Shanghai, right?
Happy to be sharing the Hotline Lee episode. I always figure, my personality is way too bubbly, so it's good to have some kind of balance.
Well, here's what actually happened is, as we explain Hysterics here. For those that don't know, Kelsey runs the Academy program, and do you officially run 100T Next, Kelsey?
I am the head of our development program, basically.
Okay.
So
Academy and 100T Next are under both, right?
Yeah. So, but okay. I'm not the head coach of that team. It's neither is Max Waldo. Just to clarify, it is indeed Fallen Bandit. Yes.
Okay. Whatever. Anyway, by the way, sorry if anybody's hearing an alert on the podcast. I haven't figured out how to disable sounds for my new resub. I thought I figured it out before the start of the show, but then, of course, as soon as we start the show, some issues occur. So, hopefully, people don't sub. But Hysterics is here. How's it going, Hysterics?
Right. I'm all right. Yeah, I'm lucky that I'm on Worlds time. I don't have to reset schedule or anything. I don't have to prepare. I just get to sit back and like 5 p.m. every day, just watch it like normal LPL time and just chill out.
Yes, you are somebody who is in the correct time zone, would not have to struggle to adjust, and will also not be casting Worlds. As I woke up to a Reddit thread about today. What sort of? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot because I know you're trying to.
That's all he likes to do. Here we go.
Be cool with Papa Riot, who has decided not to employ you for an LPL Worlds. But what's sort of been the experience as you've seen? That Reddit thread I think must have been kind of validating, right?
Dude, it was surprising. Validating is a good word. I think it was just surprising because we knew that LPL support was growing this year, and the surprising fact was that we didn't know how much it grew, and that Reddit thread, validated how many new fans there are, and even people saying like, "Oh, we don't like the cast. We're not the biggest fan of the casters, but it's, it's weird not seeing them at Worlds." Was also just a nice little touch, but yeah, I guess because of COVID and everything, and we kind of understand, and like it is what it is. There's no anger or anything. It's just like, well, next year, next time. But
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be yes. At Worlds, I can understand why there are a lot of complications around COVID, and yet somehow they got all the teams from all over the world except for Vietnam into the country, created a bubble system, are orchestrating a big multi-region situation where they have casters in North America going nocturnal, and yet somehow the casters that are in Shanghai where everything's working, that is too much of a challenge. I don't know. Anyway, I won't put you on the spot anymore.
thank you.
I would guess that Riot just didn't, for some reason, didn't expect people to actually care about the the LPL casters. Like, as sad as that is to say, but that would be my guess, is that they just didn't expect anyone would care.
I mean, we're the least watched broadcast, right? Like LPL casters in the past as well. There's only been like one or two that have gone, like Frosk or Raz as representation.
So this is going to be a weird thing to say, because like most of us, except for Travis, will all work for Riot in some capacity or some kind of way. But I do think that Riot production probably doesn't pay that much attention to the LPL broadcast, because I just feel like a lot of the casters.
Mark, sorry, is your camera falling?
I was just getting ready. I didn't know what she was about to say.
I do think a lot of the casters go underappreciated, and it's almost like you have to make an argument for people to even watch them or pay attention to them. So I think that's probably more it. Not that the LPL English casters aren't good, just that they're not even noticed, which is kind of sad to say. But I've been watching. I think you guys have been leveling up all year, so
you guys sound fantastic at 2x speed. Let me tell you, it's unbelievable. I probably watched. I watched your entire playoffs in the last day and a half. 2x speed jamming through. I mean, you guys, the enunciation to hear clearly at 2x speed, it was incredible.
That's what we've been aiming for, man. 2x speed. We said, like, when Mark watches this through, is he going to understand what we're saying? And I'm glad we could deliver.
Yeah, I'm not very smart, so it's a high bar to pass.
Well, I think what is very interesting to me is it does feel like Riot this year has tried to create, like, so I agree with Kelsey. I think that there's a very good chance that like the broadcast crew who handles the world stuff, they just are not aware of all the other regions as much, right? And maybe they're working full time, so it's difficult or whatever. But what is weird to me is that it definitely feels like the global esports brand of LoL esports this year has been making a lot of very visible efforts to be, I don't know, to elevate, like to make it not feel like, and this is when the LCS and LEC teams decided to cover international stuff, right? Like they've come out with multiple programs that are on the LoL esports website that are around this. They rebranded. There's this like sort of umbrella brand now that is LoL esports. And so you would hope that with those initiatives would come a better job of like looping in all these different regions, especially because like LPL in China is becoming more and more a like they're winning and they are massive and they are leading the charge on all this. Somebody did a great documentary last summer on his YouTube channel that everybody can go see, from when he and Broden went to Shanghai and like dived in on all this stuff. And so it's just, it feels like this would be a great opportunity, right? So I think we don't need to keep talking about it too much, but I just I'll just say, like, I think this is a missed opportunity, and it feels odd given the direction that they've been trying to go lately.
I'll put my Riot shill hat on and play devil's advocate a little bit.
What a surprise.
I hope you guys are watching, producers. Here we go. No. I
just
think,
clip up my part, and then they send that around in Slack. Your defense won't be there.
Yeah. I mean, it's not much of a defense. It's more about like the logistics of it. Like already, when you condense 4 major regions that do full-time broadcasts into a single tournament, there's always been like, goddamn, there's so many people who deserve a shot, and like every new person you add just waters down how much the other person gets to do. Like it is like competitive in that sense, where like people get bumped at play-in, some people get put in groups. Like everyone's like they're constantly trying to balance, trying to get the people that fans want to see as well. Like I remember this was a bit of a controversy. I think it was last year. Like Deficio casted some worlds, I think, or maybe he did just analyst desk. I forget, but I remember that was a bit of a controversy that to some people that like he came back even though he didn't cast all year, and because he's a popular face and he's good. You know, I don't want to make it seem like it's a talent issue, but like, you know, this idea of deserving a shot in, and like I think that's one of the issues that you run into is there are so many people who are deserving, and then that's an issue that they face every year about like this guy got snubbed, every year. There's a Reddit thread about who got snubbed. And then that combo that with the COVID situation this year about stuff like, you know, I'm not going to pretend that I'm happy that NA analyst, me, will never appear between games or in pre-show unless I can like get a pre-made piece of content out there. Like that's obviously not like, oh, sick, I was saving up all year for that. You know, like I don't think, and I understand this is complaining from a bit of a still a position of privilege compared to what the LPL guys have to deal with, of course. So like, I understand that. I just mean like it's a shitty year for pretty much everyone. That said, I personally would love to have the LPL cast a part of this because they obviously, one, LPL region's huge. Two, they're really good. Three, there's these logistical issues that you guys are talking about how in theory you would think being the closest to where this is all going down would make it work. So it is disappointing for sure.
No, I like that because there's so much talent across the world. Like, especially someone's always going to miss out. And further to your point, like whether it's us, whether it's LCK casters, whether it's like some casters from EU or NA, there's always going to be talent that deserves to go. That's always going to miss out. So you can never win. But I mean, the fact is, like LoL esports casters, the talent is stacked. Like from other regions, it's just amazing what we have in comparison to other esports.
I also think the LPL cast is really interesting because it's almost like gained a reputation as the caster training ground, because I think with the departure of Raz, no one initially came. No one on the broadcast team who is a caster right now came because they were super passionate about LPL, right? Like most of you go because it's like a really cool cast.
That's what it was designed for. When Raz and all those people left, we designed it. It was designed as a training ground to build up casters.
So it's like, because it feels like kind of interesting that way, because I think most other regions have someone who is like really established as like the EU guy or the NA guy, or someone who's like always been immersed in that region and really kind of passionate about it. And obviously LCK has like LS and Wadid who have been like Wadid actually competed there. LS has always been the kind of Korea's awesome guy. So yeah, it's just interesting that that's like the LPL identity now. So I can kind of get why it's overlooked.
Well, we'll put a cap in this by just saying I hope that there's something that they can do to throw a bone to you guys, even if it's like featuring you guys on some post broadcast thing or something like that. Hopefully if I was running Riot Games, I would march into the esports team room and I would say, hey, I saw this Reddit thread, let's do something so that it feels like we noticed.
Can we get like a segment with the rock quotes thrown in? Because that would be sweet.
Anyone doesn't know, man. We had two Skarner players versus each other. What was it? Was it Peanut and SOFM? We ran a segment about the Rock, and we had a lower third that we didn't end up running. That was like a full Rock quote, you know, like when the Rock punches you, you know, he'll kill you. And even if he misses, the wind from the punch will cause you to get pneumonia and die anyway. So, we couldn't run that.
The third place match obviously was basically just all the Rock quotes, because that was like
the match meant nothing.
That was like the Oscar night of the LPL this year. So everyone was really trolling those games. It was a good time.
Anyway, it's, by the way, just as a heads up, we are recording this on Tuesday because group stage happened this morning while I was sleeping at 5 a.m. Group stage draw, groups draw, whatever it's called, the draw show. All right. As you can tell, I lost some sleep. Anyway, so that's why we're moving it to Tuesday. And what is going to happen is probably over the next month or so, the schedule for Hotline League will get kind of wonky. So just keep your eyes on my Twitter, because sometimes, you know, we're not going to, like, Mark and I will switch to Nocturnal. I think 8 is still going to be fine for us because I don't think games will be going at this time, but we can double check if anything ever runs into it. But we might move around, so like instead of doing a show where we have one more day of group stage in the first part. It's like, okay, we're going to do it on Tuesday or Wednesday so that we're fine.
Yeah.
We need to look at the schedule, but with all the time zone stuff, it's going to get a little wonky. So please bear with us as we go through sort of a different schedule.
Yeah, and we'll always try and make sure it's at a time where there's the most interesting stuff to talk about, so it's good for viewers too.
Yeah.
So it's not like
Yeah,
you're
because it's
saying,
weird whenever it's like, oh yes, 2 days of group stage have been played, or so. It's like we want to find it. I think there's a chance. Mark, in the past, you and I, we've done like a bonus episode, I think, during groups, even that maybe we could try to fit in. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I assume for this episode we mostly just want to talk about the group draw stuff.
Yes.
Do you want to do? I mean, because we have 2 guests, I think I'd love to pick their brains a little bit before hopping.
Well,
into...
first, Freak prepared a format video that I think is
gosh.
really instructive.
Dude, you're like 2 days late on this already. Come on.
Well, so I didn't see it when it first came out because I understand the format, but then I tuned in to watch the dive today, and they aired it on the dive, and I was just like, what is this?
I feel like you just spend all episode trying to get me in trouble.
And,
Like, all you fucking do is try and get people at Riot to hate me.
and honestly, when I reached out to Mark about it, all he could say is this was something that Dave Stewart decided that had to happen.
What the fuck? Now you're specifically name dropping my bosses.
And we all tried to push back against it, and he insisted on it. No, I'm just kidding. It's just a very funny thing. I'm
gonna start talking shit about Alienware during this show and just see how you like it. Like, oh god, Marcy and David, God, they're just so fucking.
Azale's in the chat. He's just rip Mark fired. Anyway, I'm just kidding on that. But yes, group stage and plans and all that stuff. We'll have some calls. I think that's and then Reapered, I think, is the other thing at some point in time. I know that's more of like an LCS thing, but that's the only other big news I feel like that really happened in the past week. So I'm sure we'll get some calls about that if we've done that or whatever. We'll see how it goes. But Mark, do you want to explain how the show goes for people?
Wait, so you didn't answer the question I asked. You just ignored me and said what you wanted to say.
Yeah.
I said, do you want to pick their brains for a little bit first about, or because we have two guests. Usually we only have one. I didn't know if we wanted to talk with them about like, hey,
you know what,
were your
Mark?
reaction?
This is your show, so just we'll just do whatever you want.
I asked you a question. I wasn't twisting an arm or anything. I think
no,
you
it's
can
a
say
fair.
no.
It's a good point. It's a good point. So first off, let's start with Kelsey. What are your impressions of the groups? Is there a group of death this year, et cetera, et cetera? I need to find a graphic if anybody has graphics on hand for this. That would have been a good thing to have prepared for this, but
yeah.
I guess it depends on what you would refer to as a group of death. I think if you're just referring to the group of death as, there are like really strong teams in this group that are definitely getting out, so good luck everyone else. But or if it's everyone seems like they're gonna be really competitive and most of the team, it'll be an interesting group to watch. Hard to say who's going to get out. The group is going to be hard because people are going to be taking wins off of each other left and right. I think that kind of thing has been considered like the group of life, but I don't think there's a group of death where it's like, oh my god, impossible to get out. I don't know. It's very strange. I like the draw in general. I think there's interesting stuff everywhere. For sure. I mean, that's basically it. I think the most interesting group that I would want to see is actually going to be the group with. I see. Okay, it's actually going to be the group with TSM, Fnatic, and Gen.G. Just because I think Gen.G is a super interesting team to me. I think that DRX is not great compared to the other two LCK teams. Actually, like I think Gen.G is better. So I would like to see like how competitive that group is, especially if LGD slots in. So
yeah, it's worth noting with this graphic that Travis has up is that if things go to chalk, which for planes, which has happened every single time except once, then it's actually already pre-decided. Team Liquid would go in Group A. I always say PSG, but it's the other it is PSG. PSG would go into Group B. Yeah, LGD would go in Group C, and then Mad Lions would go into Group D. So if things get upset, then there might be some flexibility, but that's the expected thing right now. So Group C becomes even more interesting once you throw an LGD in there too, I think.
Yeah, I guess I just want to jump in. Like you're talking about Group of Death before. I actually think I would actually give a hard name to Group of Death being B. A lot. I know a lot of the audience agree with this. Even though D has top esports DRX, the fact is like DRX with inconsistencies and that being where Mad would go would be like, well, what's their performance through the play-in stage? But top esports should easily like top Group D. Group B is Down One and JDG. And remember, JDG from LPL are the second best team. Another best of 5, like they hard fought in spring. They won in spring, lost in summer, but they're still like a very close second. They feel like a first seed. So for a team like Rogue and for a team like, I'm saying Unicorns are love, by the way. It's not, look, it's not PSG talent. Unicorns are love. So let's say, Unicorns are love. Let's say they go in there. It's like, how do you escape that group? How do Rogue survive? How does anyone beat Down One and JDG? It just feels like B is a nightmare situation for any team that's not DWG and JDG.
I hope Unicorns of Love don't make it, only because then Team Liquid get thrown into Group B. That would be the one bit of flexibility that comes in. North America needs all the help it can get, and that is probably not it. Because I totally agree with you about Group B probably being the hardest group to like have an upset happen in, I guess. It's weird because a Group of Death, like Kelsey was saying, has 2 definitions about like, is there 3 teams that should get out and only 2 spots? Because that's how often it goes, or it's just the hardest with the top 2 teams. I'm curious what you guys' thoughts are on Rogue, because I personally would say that they might be able to get out of some other groups. I don't think there's much of a chance for this one, but I'm not sure if that still would make it a Group of Death, because they're not. At least to me, not really. And then maybe I'm starting the EU hate train on me already before Worlds even starts. But they don't feel like real threats in the tournament. I think they're good. I think they're I'm not saying they're worse than North American teams or anything, but I don't think that they are expected to get out of too many groups, and I don't think that they would be expected to win a best of 5, which makes it a little weird to call it a Group of Death if the expectations aren't high.
LCS fans, if you are watching on the YouTube right now, please click the like button, because the EU fans are about to just bash the dislike button, which is going to fuck my algorithm.
The interesting thing about Rogue is that I would say that Demon and JDG don't really play to like hard win lane bot. Like that's just not the focus of their teams. So I actually think that there's an advantage that they could have like via Hansama and Vander. I think that the supports in this group are pretty lit. Like I know on the dive you guys talked about Barrel and Luma, but I actually think Vander is pretty fucking good too, man. So I think that's an interesting group.
Yeah, I tried to give him a shout out in the dive too about Vander and Hansama playing really well, but then it's just so scary when you're like, and then on the other side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing will be is that like Barrel and Luma basically will play to leave the lane. So if they can find a way to punish that, maybe like set up 4-man dives, because Larson isn't bad either. And the thing with JD Gaming is everyone always picks on Yagao, right?
Yeah, so one of the weaker mids, I guess.
That would be their way to do something, to make something happen, would be to just like hard play through bot, I think. But it's difficult for them, I think, overall.
I think if Rogue were in another group, I mean, like just coming back, I think if Rogue were maybe like in the group of Life, like Group C, instead of Fnatic, then there could have been maybe a bit more chances. But yeah, I think like just coming back to lanes, like pound for pound, Rogue feel like they get outweighed quite a bit. And playing through bot's interesting, especially when like against teams like JDG and even like Damwon, because Damwon in the past, the weakness has always been through bottom lane, which is actually quite a lot of fun. But JDG, this whole season was about strengthening bot. So Loken and Luma are some of the best bottom laners in the LPL right now, especially Loken through 80 carry. So I think it'll be a fun matchup, but like still heavily outweighed.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing about the LPL teams is they're the region with a reputation for bot lane, but I feel like coming to Worlds, the only like really good AD that we're bringing is Jackie Love. So I'm not really high on Loken or anyone else.
But he's been so good recently. I agree with Top Esports 2019 Loken. He was just so nothing.
I mean, that's the objective. When I watch him play, like a lot of his laning gets supplemented just by the nature of the champs he's playing, right? Like Ashe, it's easy to clear lane bots and then have Luma roam, Nakitov. I don't think he plays team fights like insanely well or anything, Like he's a very, very good role-playing AD carry. And I hate the word role player. Like I really hate it, but that's basically what he is. So
I mean, I think a lot of people say the same thing about Ghost in a lot of ways too,
yeah.
where like he's good. There's no flame, but it's like obviously not the focal point of the team, and so I think that's actually why it's a super cool matchup. And I do think Rogue in Group A and Group C would actually have a decent chance to get out of both those as well. Because I think Group A is also probably going to be a group of life.
I have, if you guys have other analysis of the groups, that's fine. But before we get into calls, I have two questions for you guys. One for Hysterics. But Mark, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on or questions for them on the group stuff.
No, I think that was a lot of it.
Hysterics. So a lot of the, I'm just going to be candid here. A lot of the people that watch the show, because they are LCS fans, they probably are not watching LPL. And we have a lot of new to LCS fans names, right? It's not like we have like RNG or whatever. It's like what? So I'm kind of curious if you want to give like a brief rundown or synopsis on some of the storylines that are going in with the LPL. And also I talked to Wendy a little bit about this. For those that catch on my YouTube channel, I did an interview with Wendy, who is helps. Well, how would you describe Wendy's role, Hysterics?
Wendy came on as a translator for post-game interviews, something that we haven't had for many a broadcast. So obviously just talking to the players after our best of threes, and especially during playoffs, coming in and talking through the players. So providing more translated content to the broadcast, which has been amazing. And she's kind of just started out, and the fact like her improvement, her growth, and how hard, I'm sure a lot of people out there know how hard it is doing live translation. It's just incredible. So yeah, shout out to Wendy if people haven't already followed her.
And that video is over on my YouTube channel if you guys want to go check it out. But we talked a little bit about it too. But Hysterics, if you want to give sort of a brief rundown for people who don't know who the LPL teams are and what their stories are.
Yeah, I mean the main storyline we were shoving this year, or at least towards the end of summer, was out with the old and with the new, especially like the reign of the new kings. JDG and Top Esports have been in a head-to-head battle for quite a while. Spring JDG 3-2, summer Top Esports 3-2. Both grand finals are something to go back and watch. Just kind of showing the development of the region and how these new players are rising to form. Like for example, JDG, 4 out of 5 of these players never been to Worlds, if I'm not mistaken. And then for Top Esports, like we've got Jackie Love, we have Casa returning back, Knight, who's the best player never to go to Worlds, which was another fun storyline. Anyone doesn't know, Knight was up there with Rookie. Like he was one of the best mid laners in the LPL for a while, but only got his starting position in Top Esports in 2019. And a top laner 369 is kind of in the same boat. A rookie top laner in 2019 whose second year in is looking even better. Looks better than the Shy and the best top laner in individual lane mechanics. Top Esports is like an experienced roster who's been to Worlds, bar Yu Yanjia, who had his debut year this year and sucked at the start. And Top Esports are like great through lanes, ability to group and power through their solo lanes. JDG's fantastic at skirmishes and fighting around objectives and letting Kanavi lead charge while the lanes kind of follow suit. Like he's a carry style jungler. Our top 2 seeds are closely matched, and then Suning and LGD are weirdly enough about like SOFM takes individual jungle advantages, while Bin's solo lane is insane, like one of the greatest rising top laners. And Juan Fong, 80 carry from IG LDL. Sorry, I'm ranting here. Obviously, I like
keep going, dude.
Yeah,
and
this is good.
Juan Fong, like IG Young's 80, so LDL team Challenger series of Invictus Gaming, kind of rising after Jackie Love. Feels like a Jackie Love 2.0. It's great to have 2 of them at the tournament, actually. And his support Sword Art, who people remember from Flash Wolf's day, is actually quite a fierce bottom lane. Suning's really good at punishing mistakes. And as a 3rd seed, I think they're kind of like they're swept under the rug a little bit just because of Suning's regular season, which was a bit inconsistent. But towards playoffs, they started concreting their grounds and kind of getting to the point of their highest point. And SOFM starts having more interactions with mid, although he never really touches mid. There is no mid 2v2 in that team. And then finally, to take my last breath, LGD, who I think are going to win Worlds as a 4th seed. I'm sorry, but Peanut
You're crazy.
and GA. Yeah, I know. Well, it's been said. Peanut and Shie are the best mid 2v2 or one of the best mid 2v2 in the LPL. Not that there's direct interaction through lane, but it's how they skirmish. It's how they build up through the early game. And LGD is like another great team fighting team. If you're a fan of old RNG, you're not going to get the same feelings from LGD, but you're going to get that slimmer of like how Lung Xing, who funnily enough previously on RNG, tank top laner, right? Set packing, or he's like Camille, and they'll first pick Twisted Fate, and they'll approach top lane or they'll free up bot, and then we'll get into team fights with Kramer and Mark. I think there's a lot of different dynamics, and I think sorry, I've kind of gone through playstyle, but we have new guards coming up in older organizations like LGD, but also fresh faces onto the Rift like JDG and Suning for the first time. So there's a lot to be excited for, and I could talk for many.
Well, Raz
many more
seems
hours,
to dispute
but
your LGD hype, but as soon as you said that in Twitch chat, he said, "What the
of course
fuck?"
I did.
So, okay, so okay, that's very helpful, I think, for a lot of fans who haven't followed LPL. The final question I'll pose to the three of you is the only question most LCS fans are going to actually care about with today's group draw. I don't know how much it was talked about, but are any of our teams going to get out of groups?
Oi. So I'll say I wasn't super optimistic going in, and I don't think NA got screwed, and I don't think they got helped,
Okay,
which
so-
means it's still pretty difficult.
Yeah.
I think this is the least hype NA has ever had going in the Worlds. And yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Really was hoping you were going to say, I'm like, that's to their benefit because people are going to... Yikes. Okay. So, okay.
Hey, bring it home, Hysterics. Here we go.
I think you could. I think like realistically, TSM have a chance because that group is a group of life and mess. As a
Hysterics
potential,
doesn't
right?
want to lose the hype he's got going for him on Reddit right now, so he's
Hysterics
I
is-
gotta-
figured it out.
it's
I've
an
never
overly
supported
good
NA.
thing, you know? Just
All
like
right,
cater to TSM fans, man.
Yeah.
Just like, do it.
No.
That's the
If you do
easiest
that, that's
way
about half the league, so you're good there.
to get people to
And
care.
TL might make it out. I don't know. Look, there will be one NA team, I think, in quarters. I think one.
Okay.
I think at one point or another, every content creator has stooped
Fine.
to that level, you know?
Oh.
Just cater to the TSM fans.
I bash on NA during LPL broadcast. Like I say some,
Thank God, because we don't have other analysts doing that internationally. So I'm glad that you're there to
No.
really take the brave stance of,
one team.
hey, let me
I-
make fun of North American teams on a
I don't wanna be too
broadcast
bold
completely
here, but-
unrelated to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
As someone who works in North America, there are a lot of problems. So, yeah, there you go.
Listen, here's the thing. Everyone's playing these messy fucking games. All really they're just fighting and trying to finish the game as soon as possible. We're gonna send in like our three teams. TL, great example. They're just gonna get a death grip. All right, they won't even know what to do. It's just like we are the immovable objects. We're gonna force the average game times up in any group that we're in by quite some time, and we're gonna lower those kill counts and still lose. But it's gonna be really great because we're just gonna grief the shit out of the
We're just
world's
gonna
bracket.
screw up our waves and mess up the crash, and enemy jungle will be there, and we'll die bottom. And it's like, well, thanks for playing, guys. It was great.
What's
Have
going to
fun.
happen? Someone's going to counterpick our blind tanks top. And we're going to be like, what the fuck is this?
It's not going to be an EU team, I will tell you that at least.
Yeah.
So okay, really quickly. So
Shogat and Sion? Nice. Let's go.
I like that.
So we think FlyQuest is boomed, right? Like they're just
Mm.
they're screwed.
I think
In group D.
So
so. The thing about Grid D that's interesting to me is because I think TES is going to go 6-0 in that
Yep.
group. And that's where it's like, because it's best of one, there's a chance that like something whack can happen to DRX, right? So that's for me is like
yeah.
the most likely chance where there's something weird happens and a team gets out in seed 2, right? And that's, I don't know.
But you got
That's
mad
where-
in that group. That's
where I
what's
see, like,
scary.
the upset happening, right?
Yeah.
Also because like Mad is probably going to be the 4th team in there, and they're going to be probably kind of inconsistent based on what we've seen from them.
Yeah, I think
and the way they sort of responded to like pressure ramping up and their quote unquote team comps that they were comfortable with not working in playoffs, not functioning. Like there's a chance maybe, but that's it. It would require a lot of things to go well for FlyQuest, right?
yeah, I think overall, we always talk about how certain things are, but I feel like there's always one or two things where you're like, what the fuck just
I
happened
mean, wasn't
there?
Cloud9 in the group of death? Was it the 2018 or
Yeah,
at some point in
2018
time
was-
they like just went out like crazy? It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, so upsets happen. Gen G ended up being a total turd that year, and RNG had more problems, and Vitality was sick, and Cloud9 was better than people thought, and like that can always happen. But you're still like that's still the unlikely scenario, and so like yeah, you know, LCK teams sometimes they choke, and like a team that you think is going to be really good suddenly booms. Like that has happened at different points in history, but like that's what you're hoping for, because if things go according to how we think it is, it looks pretty doomed. I mean, maybe something happens with Suning as well. Would be like Team Liquid's hope, I guess.
And that's in Group A you're talking about,
right? Like in Group A,
your assumption is G2 and Suning will get out.
Yeah, I think G2 is probably the favorite, though. Hysterics might disagree with me. I don't know how LPL his goggles
Suning's
are.
the team I've been like so side to side on this whole year. I
Yeah.
really don't know about Suning.
I
I
think-
actually have more confidence in LGD, funnily enough.
I think stylistically, Suning is the best matchup for G2 of any of the 4 LPL teams. It's like if there's an LPL team in my group, which there probably will be because there are 4 of them, that's the one I want if I'm G2.
Okay, so then finally, so what? Let's give everybody odds. So what? 10% for FlyQuest, 5%,
I don't know.
2%. Says Hysterics.
2%.
I think is FlyQuest the least likely, or is TSM the least? I actually think I feel pretty sad about Group C for TSM.
I feel like TSM is the least likely. Again,
Okay.
yeah.
So
That's like the
TSM.
Group C, they're the least likely to get out, I think.
That's
Okay,
Gen
so-
G's fault for being dope.
So what is TSM's chance, percentage-wise?
1. This is like
Nah.
the
Okay,
Yeah.
1%
30%.
for TSM.
30%.
It's 30%, dude. We don't know. But look at Fnatic through finals.
I
Honestly,
thought
like,
LGD were gonna win Worlds Hysterics. Like, where's
and they
your
were
head?
LGDR, and sometimes I'm not backing down. But
I don't
feel like
think LGD are
second
gonna
seed-
win Worlds, dude.
Oh,
They're
well.
just not.
Okay, we're
going
talking
to.
about NA. All right, stop talking about LPL.
I mean,
So-
but even if LGD is a world caliber team, Gen G's also dope in Group C. Like, I'm scared for Fnatic
Okay, fuck
too.
the percentages. Just give me a stack rank. What are the teams that are? Who's most likely to make it out? Sounds like you guys are saying TL.
I'm not
Probably.
pretty sure. I think.
Oh, sorry.
I think Group A is too volatile. Like, if I'm an NA team, I want to be in a group with like one sure team that's just gonna take wins off of everyone, and then everything else can be fucking weird, right? So that's why I think Group D looks pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Kelsey, FlyQuest is yours?
FlyQuest is my most likely to get out. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So FlyQuest, then what? TSM, then TL.
I think then TL, then TSM.
TL, then TSM. Okay, Mark.
I'm pretty much in alignment. I might say TL, but I want to see them first if they've made any improvements, because in general, I'm just super sketched on how TL and FlyQuest approach the game.
Okay. Hysterics.
Oh yeah, FlyQuest is at the bottom. There's no way through like individual potency. Like, how is NA fared against like individual lanes, like top esports and DRX?
I mean, some
even
whack
if
shit
you're-
has to happen for any of these teams to get out. So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, what is the group where whack shit is most likely to happen? Group D. All right, nice.
What if Suning flop in Group A? What if TL?
Do you think Suning are gonna flop? I mean,
No, I don't know, but
the thing about NA teams, if you watch like how they play individual lane matchups, it's actually just like really depressing.
Okay, well, listen. I was just asking for a goddamn stack rank. We
Let's
don't need
just
to
close the show, dude.
Yeah.
This is too depressing.
All right.
We're an hour, 0 callers.
Well, the
That's
good
why
news
I just,
is-
I don't have a lot of hope. Even if there's a team that completely flops, right? You still have to, like, for example, I would say IG's bot lane is really bad at lane matchups, right? Really bad at lane matchups. And that's how LGD made it to Worlds, because they played Kalista into Ezreal, and then Ezreal somehow is able to go even in farm and never get traded on and be full health the entire lane. That's what I look at when I'm watching like NA bot lanes, right? It's just like mysteriously the Ezreal is full health, right? And not punished. So and the wave is like crashed on 2 and no one is trading, and like that's kind of my expectation. Or the wave is like in a really bad position and the crash failed or something like that, right? So that's why my hopes for NA are low right now, is just because I think there is like a large gap in that type of.
Okay, well, let's get into calls, because we need some serotonin for Twitch chat.
Yes.
They are all just spamming
Alright.
depression and stuff right now. Mark has already pulled a bunch of people, so we don't need to explain how the show works, I guess, because
Oh, I was going to if you want me to.
I mean, it's a call-in show. We've already pulled the callers, so if you didn't put your take in earlier because you thought that we would wait till Mark's message to you was get fucked. That's what he's.
No, my message in that it was that I wanted to be prepared while Hysterics was talking about all the LPL teams. I was just trying to be efficient.
That's true.
You can. I'm still looking for topics. If I see a good one, you'll get pulled. And because this is mostly an NA show, you can expect a lot more NA fans coming in here and trying to sway your minds, Kelsey and Jake.
I'm
so
excited.
we'll see. We got.
I want to believe in NA, so let's convince me. Let's go, guys. I've got
All right.
coffee.
I like
I'm
you
good.
say convince me as you're sipping your mug, like that meme of the person sitting at the table. It's
Convince me
NA's
I'm
not
right.
getting out of group.
I had
convince me.
like when the last time someone said LGD would win Worlds, I ended up drinking whiskey out of a coffee mug. So just
That was 5 years ago.
Right,
Hey,
the
5
situation.
years, and the funny thing is, they might be in TSM's group again. So
Okay.
who knows how that goes?
time
So,
for another LGD versus TSM drunk VOD review. I'm ready. Let's
So
go.
I forgot
Give
to
me a
shout
jacket,
them
no
out.
sponsorship.
I forgot to shout them out in the beginning. That's my mistake. But this show is sponsored by Alienware, so thank you to Alienware for their support. We're going to do a little bit of an ad break later on for them, maybe after the first or second call. But Mark, do you want to go grab our first caller? Oh, he's already grabbing them. Fantastic. Okay, that saves time. Thank you to, let's see, I want to shout out some subs. Thank you to I Am Justin T, Click Nickum, Blank27, Shreds to Raptor, The Way to Dawn, G6 Stealth Black, Bob69, Slummy Broom, Thermodynamics, America Vespucci, I Am Justin T, Tom Shu, thank you Tom Shu, Eve125, Game or Girlfriend Alters Me Ego, Nuclear, Hipster Dog. Okay, fantastic. Revive is here. Revive, where are you calling from?
Hello. Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Atlantic City, New Jersey. Okay. Well, there's a lot of gambling that goes there. So let's see if you can gamble with some expectations, I guess, for Worlds. What's your take?
I have a huge gamble. I think TL gets Group A, the group of life. Okay? There's a strong chance they make it out. A PCS team. I think Kelsey said it. It's a volatile group. G2 has been super inconsistent the whole split. It's a best of one. I think the main problem with G2 is Perks. He's like super inconsistent in the bot lane. The main strength of TL is Core JJ. And I know it's not likely that they're going to make it out, but I think it's a good, like the NA's best chance to make it out is Group A, the group of life.
Okay. So your take is Group A is the group of life, and that is, even if they don't have like even odds, that is the best chance for TL to get out because it will be chaotic.
Yes.
Okay. Kelsey, let's start with you because you are the biggest skeptic. What do you think of this?
I just like how it isn't. We don't have someone coming in off the bat like really strong, saying you guys are delusional. TL is gonna come out first in Group A. It's like, what ways can we take mental gymnastics to get an NA team out of groups? Like, I really just, I'm feeling it, man. That's basically all I have to say.
Wait, okay,
like,
but
what kind of crazy, absurd scenario can we create so that NA team? I'm down for that thought experiment.
Okay. So, well, as part of this thought experiment, do you think?
By the way, I'm down.
Do you think that there's a world where G2's inconsistency and the strength of Core JJ will allow them to, I don't know, sneak past G2's defenses, maybe get a win against them or something, get their way out of the group? Kelsey.
What about TL?
Oh, Jesus.
Like how do they get out?
She's already checked out.
Oh no, I
No.
checked I was just looking at the chat. Sorry.
Is there is there a world where, to the caller's point, G2's inconsistency leads to them not, I don't know, having issues?
I guess like you have to be specific on what you think is super inconsistent about G2. Like Perks, okay. So Perks is I think has performed way worse than before. Definitely just like dying to random stuff. Map awareness is not on point. Taking really bad 2v2 trades. So like maybe there's an angle there, but I definitely just think that the way that G2 perform as a full unit is really strong. Like I guess there's a universe where TL can get out of Group A. Like I don't think that it's impossible for any teams to get out, but it is like you do have to create the perfect circumstances for it to occur. I don't think that G2. I'm not banking on G2 like bombing out by any means. So
yeah,
I think it's a big concern. Just like how the bot lane thing you can talk about maybe going in their favor against G2, but to just be fair about it, like Impact and Brox are your two biggest question marks for TL, and Wunder and Yankos are pretty fucking great. And then you also have SOFM and Bin. So you're like, oh fuck, our biggest weaknesses match up to some of these teams' biggest strengths. And that's like what I'm terrified as a TL fan about, is like getting my top side absolutely blown open by these guys.
Oh yeah, I was gonna come in and say like the biggest thing is you're relying on the fact that you've got Broxer going up against Yankos and then SOFM junglers that will punish you. And I know there's been a lot of criticism towards Broxer. It's like you cannot be stagnant in this group because the junglers in it are very aggressive, especially SOFM. He's really, really good at punishing timings and like missteps from enemy junglers. So I think it's relying on Broxer to have a great game and then coming back to like top lane, like individual lanes, especially through top side.
So also to be a little clearer, I'm gonna illustrate why I think G2 is favored over Suning in particular. Is just in terms of making trades for tempo over an objective. That's something that I see like very few teams do globally, and it's something G2 are very good at. And I think that Suning kind of get screwed up in the mid to late game when they have an advantage by not sweeping behind them and not covering their flanks or controlling areas. So that's why I think like G2 works really well, because even when G2 have had inconsistent early games, just by like overstaying resets or taking weird fights that they should take, or 2v2 trades that they shouldn't take, they've been really, really good in terms of like mid-game map control and being smart about trading for tempo over like a dragon, which I don't think I've seen an NA team all year make a tempo trade, like willingly make a tempo trade to give dragon. And that's obviously an extreme exaggeration because I can think of examples right now where that's occurred, but it's just like really unpopular to even consider giving dragons an NA.
True, playing the risk. Yeah.
5v5 dragon teams are just gonna win. It's very strange. Like I see Fnatic making this kind of mistake against G2 even in the final, where it's like, okay, you guys don't have to fight here. And then they're just misexecuting fights where they should be favorable as well. So, and that's where G2 really shine, because people think about G2 as like super aggressive, super all in, just all these types of things, but their map movements are just really intelligent. And that's where I think is they're not the team to bank on being inconsistent and just collapsing because of that, because that doesn't rely on a single player popping off that day, you know.
Hysterics, remind me, were you the one casting Suning versus LGD in the 3rd, 4th place match?
Yeah, the Oscar night, and yeah, I was doing that.
Yeah, because I remember I think it was you pleading like, hey guys, don't judge if this is your first time watching these teams play.
I was like, please, this is not the LPL. This is the 3rd, 4th place match. And then we get to the 3rd seed world qualifying match, and Suning do the exact same thing anyway. So it's like, oh, hang on, maybe it was Suning. But LGD threw a lot in that Oscar night.
Yeah, it was just funny too, because I was like, I think it was the first one of their series I watched, and you were just like, no. They were
I
just
don't want people coming in now.
yeah, it was a big ARAM fest. A lot of those fights. So like to
Sure.
Kelsey's point about one of the advantages I think G2 would have over them, and I agree that like it's not representative of how they always play, but I think G2 is really smart about finding plays as well, and in like the windows between drakes was one of the things I thought they're really good about, like making side lane plays where
Yeah.
NA teams will sometimes just AFK farm, push waves back and forth until the next dragon. I don't see that happening quite as much, and I think LPL and more specifically also Suning is like down to fight those, but I don't think they'll be as good about picking their own. So like I think that macro advantage would probably still exist against Suning, but Suning can take over a game so easily.
Yeah, they turn advantages, like tempo trades is a good word to use, especially for a lot of LPL teams and how like they define their games, especially early games. So, but yeah, I'm so swung between like G2 and Suning, and I know this kind of comes off the question, but when we're talking about first and second being so competitive, and we're talking about like, oh well, there's two still like giants in this group, and we haven't even touched on Machi because we don't know what Machi going to look like. This is still the first seed of PCS and the first seed put together of like LMS and what the LSC was last year. It's like, how does TL triumph when you're relying on like this outlier of Machi and then Suning G2 are competing for first and second?
Well, I'm sorry, Revive, but it doesn't sound like there's much hope for your admittedly limited hope for TL.
Believe that.
Yeah, a lot of fair points across the board. I don't know, just some wishful thinking, some NA optimism. I thought it might be a nice group, but yeah, I get it.
Dude, I do it with LGD. Don't worry. Don't stop believing. If you think TL's going to go first, you stick with it and they'll come first.
I didn't say first, but
All right. Well, hey, top two. That's
second.
still
I think
Hysterics upgraded you. You said first.
Calm down. I'm
gonna
not
win
that
Worlds.
optimistic, okay? Yeah, that's what he's saying.
uh,
But I appreciate it. I think TL probably appreciates it. So
I appreciate it. Revive, thank you. Look, here's what I will say. I think at least one team will make it out of groups because I think there's so much, like, to Kelsey's point, we are super, there's not very much hope this year, I feel like, and quite frankly, those are usually the times I feel like the region does the best, right? Like, I still remember CLG going to MSI and everybody was like, this is gonna be a joke, and then boom. Remember the boom part? Anyway, Revive, thank you for the call. Anything you want to say before we move on to the next caller?
no, just thanks. I actually got into League of Legends because of one of your interviews. I watched this long interview with Nate Shot, and I was like, let me check out League, and now I'm a huge fan, and I watch all the regions. So,
are you more a fan of League than Nate Shot now?
You kicked him out.
I didn't kick him out. I think he left.
You kicked him out, dude. What the hell?
Did you kick him?
No, I didn't actually.
he couldn't choose between nade shot and it was too hard. I understand.
Oh. I missed you,
So.
Revive. I didn't kick him, so I don't know what happened.
Jeez,
And Kelsey
Travis,
doesn't
so
have power,
angsty
so this
tonight.
is not 100 Thieves. Anyway, I didn't kick him. Like, guys, I didn't kick him. Everybody in Twitch chat saying I did it. Why would I kick him? I was curious. Anyway, so I guess we'll move on. Actually, we have to take a quick break really quickly to talk about, we don't have to, we get to, because they sponsor this show. It is a privilege to be able to shout them out, given how much they do for us to make sure all this stuff happens. Allows me to do Hotline League and pay Mark's exorbitant rates. You know how much he bleeds me for this show? He's like, Travis, I just did the dive this morning. I don't need to do another show. Maybe we just skip this week. And then I go, well, Mark, we can't skip this week. It's a huge week. And he goes, oh, how huge is it, Travis? Very confusing. Anyway, Alienware sponsors so much of what we do here, basically all of it. Press this button so it lights back up behind me. And we really appreciate the support. We're working on doing some cool stuff with them for Worlds, so stay tuned for that, because we're going to try and do maybe a giveaway or something for you guys to enjoy. But they've got all sorts of cool stuff coming out soon, including their new... They've confirmed, I think I can say this, because, I mean, why would they not? But they're going to have the new NVIDIA graphics cards that are available in those. So if you've been looking at that 3000 series and you're thinking, hey, I'd love to get a computer with one of those babies in it, Go check out alienware.com/Travis. Stay tuned as those become available very soon. And use Travis10 off Q3 to save 10% off your order. And again, I think I said this previously, but a lot of you guys, I found out from them recently, have been purchasing. Actually, maybe this is dangerous to say, but something kind of fun happened last week. I got a tweet from somebody that was like, "Hey, I bought an Alienware computer," and I go, and this individual, I look at their Twitter, huge TSM fan, huge TSM fan, was flaming TSM when they lost to Golden Guardians, and then the next week praising TSM when they beat Golden Guardians. But just like whole identity is about being a TSM fan. Guess what? TSM not sponsored by Alienware, so I think it's kind of cool that you guys are going out and buying Alienware stuff whenever, you know. I guess it says a lot. So anyway, thank you guys so much for supporting Alienware, and stay tuned for all the cool stuff we're going to do with them at Worlds. And the 3000 series lineup of NVIDIA cards is going to be available soon. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, let's move on to the next caller. Off Mark goes. Shout out to Ventus Official, Hipster Dog, Captain Swoos, Mandalorian 5584, Bluejay, and looks like we've got the OGCush here. OGCush, we haven't had you on the show for a while.
Yeah.
Remind me where you're calling from.
I'm calling from North Carolina.
North Carolina. Well, when was the last time you were on the show? Do you remember?
It's been a long time. I think maybe the last time was maybe last year's Worlds round. I know Raz was on the show when I was on, so that was really fun. Shout out to Raz if you're still in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking it was probably around Worlds. He's not in the chat. We don't acknowledge him. Anyway, OGCush, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so I think that the group job for TSM is the just stylistically the best for them to make it out of the groups. Fnatic and Gen G are not top centric teams, which plays to TSM's strength as like the only NA team that can play topside well. And then LGD is doesn't look too great. I mean, I watched their.
There's a man on the show who just told me they're going to win Worlds.
Yeah,
so
I know. I'm not sure I can agree with that, but especially after watching their qualifying series versus Suning, it was like, honestly, if you took the nameplates off, it looked like the FlyQuest versus C9 series, like Peanut just getting abused, like major hardcore. And then the last thing I wanted to say is I'm actually glad that TSM didn't get a group of life, because if they happen to make out of the group, then there's no asterisk on it, like, oh, they got a group of life, like, haha, NA bad, lol W, kick W, you know.
So wait, so you're saying you're happy that they didn't get a group of life because they'll actually have to prove it?
I am, because you know, it's likely that, you know, any teams don't make it out, but if we do make it out, like, make it out of a good group, you know.
All right, so I'll leave Hysterics and Kelsey to break down the smart points of this one. I'll give you how you take down TSM if they make it out of this group. LGD was never good. All right, we all watched that series that you're talking about. They just aren't a good team. And then Fnatic is super hit or miss. They were 9-9 the regular season. They suck in best of ones. So, you know, realistically, there was only 2 teams in this group the entire time, and of course, TSM gets out with Gen G. So there you go. That's the negative person's take on when TSM gets out of this group. And now I'll let Kelsey and Hysterics take away why that's not going to happen.
I just want to be clear, LEC fans that are watching this, Mark doesn't actually think Fnatic are super hit or miss, and he thinks they're going to make it out. And please like the video. Anyway, sorry. Hysterics, you want to explain why LGD, the winners of Worlds 2020, are not as bad as OGCush seems to think that they are?
Look, for someone who's casted 160 best of threes, or at least somewhere near there, like a lot, and seen LGD development.
Is this like the 200 years of game design experience?
Yeah, almost. The casting condition. LGD like through regular seasons, their ceiling is amazing, and like when they're on, and that's what I'm gambling on. That LGD are going to be on. That's where all this world's champion stuff comes from a fourth seed of the LPL. But LGD versus Sitting, I agree. If we get that form, then absolutely, I start believing in TSM. And before, when I was talking about TSM, like and talking about this group of life, I think it's very relevant considering that TSM, when Broken Blade goes up against Lung Xing, we might get like a Camille Jax matchup. We might get a Camille Ornn matchup. Who knows? But I agree that top side of the map is the strength of TSM. I think they're very valid points, but I do also expect TSM to be reliant on Fnatic's form, especially because like Gen G and LGD might battle it out, and TSM might be like that middling like third to fourth, depending on. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just from
I mean,
watching finals game 3 and 4, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I definitely think it's like a 4-2, 4-2, 3-3 kind of group.
Yep.
My point was just stylistically. I think it's just the best teams to draw.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, Kelsey, you go.
you said that like these aren't really top-centric teams, but how would you kind of characterize Fnatic's play style then?
I mean, if you look at their drafts, they typically will draft like Ornn, GP, those kind of things,
Mhm.
and then play around Hillisang and self-made, like roaming around the map, making plays around mid or bot. I guess that's kind of what it seems to me. And then kind of leaving Blippo on the island. Yeah, and I mean like the game that like sticks out to me is when like the first game of the G2 versus Fnatic series, when G2 just like played the River Shen, and it was like, I mean, it wasn't to the extent of Solo just getting his ass beaten, but like same kind of style of playing through top through Wonder, and they seem to really struggle with it.
I think like Bubba's kind of was famous for Victor Top Right, which is like the champion that you just put him up there and he does his thing. And I think GP has kind of like become that. I never want to see him play Zillion again, for example, but
How about Rengar?
The Rengar thing, like the way you set that up, I don't want to go on a tangent, whatever. But the like, I guess the idea for me is that that used to be his identity, and like last year, a lot of times they just played through top really, really hard with Roxa because they wanted like a really, really straightforward kind of system for that. So it's Wibbo, I think, is like kind of flexible in that regard. He's not going to be like a huge team to write home about, but I would say that like Fnatic is really weird because I don't look at this team and say that there's like an insane lane that they play around, but they look for jungle advantages.
Yeah, I mean, Wibbo is certainly capable of playing those things. They just they've not picked it at all. I'm not
yeah,
seeing.
I mean, but I don't see them as a team that plays through a lane, right? It's like
Yeah.
self-made and then Hillsong roaming. That's, I think, decent. Like if it took EU a really long time to realize that they should play for jungle advantage, and that's kind of the weird thing about watching LEC and the shift like halfway through their playoffs, which makes it really difficult for me to like kind of quantify those teams. So it's like hard for me to specifically say that Fnatic has like a super defined like anti-topside style just because of the fact that I think it took them a long time to kind of cement how they want to play. So yeah, that's like the one thing that I'd really quibble with you on. I think so like the way that I've seen TSM play that's been kind of weird for me in terms of their early game is they picked for like this counter pick bot support and bot kind of thing. I remember they played like the Ash Karma and the Caitlyn Lux, and they sent their jungle top, and I thought that was kind of strange. Because then like I said, the wave was in a weird position that game, that it couldn't quite crash and sent one went bottom. Like I'm remembering the final here. So like that to me is kind of the weird thing that stands out. So Fnatic is a team that, because they were looking for a lot of 2v2s bottom in their final, if they look for that, then I think that that's something that they might be more willing to pull the trigger on. So you can see like a very volatile game, and it's just about like who escalates faster. And I think NA teams get really confused when they can't get dragons. So Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but I don't think that like we play around top, so we're stylistically favored against teams that don't is accurate way to break it down.
That's true, especially teams like LGD that do nothing of the sort, right? Especially when their mid jungle priority is like what leads this team forward. I mean, that's a different question, line of questioning towards TSM and like how they approach that. But I think it's a very valid argument talking about TSM approaching a lot of the weaknesses in this group.
I think in NA, it's a valid thing to bring up just because there aren't a lot of teams that play around top. I say this coming from 100 Thieves, but it's a valid thing to bring up that it's like, okay, they didn't react well to that. It's like FlyQuest and TL didn't react well to this type of strategy, but I think that more teams globally are kind of used to it. And so it's just because they don't play around top doesn't mean they're necessarily a bad stylistic matchup, I guess.
Yeah, I guess my point with that is that like it'll help them whenever they're red side against in their double round robin, like TL and red side and FlyQuest and red side is gonna be really rough because it's just they don't use red side very well at all.
I think it's fair to say that historically NA teams have been very bad at using red side, and TSM is one of the better ones. But it's still like interesting to me when they would do support counterpick and then.
Oh, for sure.
Mark?
Yeah, the other thing I was going to chime in there too is like these other teams that do play more around, whether you're talking about jungle getting ahead or for Genji, like they're really big about getting ruler ahead. They can still play topside carries. They just don't. It's not like a default thing. So. Like Rascal and Longshin can obviously play the carries when they give them counterpick, and then their junglers actually know how to play around that top side. Whereas like against the teams in NA, TSM, and I think this is why Kelsey's talking about some of these weird things where they'll counterpick for support, but like they might not play that way or something, is because you never worried about your top side getting snowballed for TSM. You never had to worry about Solo getting chain ganks in his favor, or same with Impact, and it. I don't think you can take that and assume that's going to happen against these other teams, even if they aren't top-centric teams, because they can flip that on.
That's also how LGD beat IG the first time, right? Is that they like shifted their style and said, okay, we're going to put Longshin on carries and we're going to play for 3v3s top and abuse the Shy, right? And I can see kind of Broken Blade has like a lot of like kind of the Shy Light-esque characteristics where he'll play like super aggro and super weird if his lane isn't like being supported, right? So he can be abused in that way as well, I think.
Push, you were going to say something, and then I think we need to
I was just going to say, like, I mean, it's just specific, just going to Mark's point about Genji, like, if Genji wants to play away from ruler and life, like, great, good. Like, I'd rather them try to play around Rascal against TSM than play against ruler.
Ruler doesn't need the help, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe.
I hate to bring up Golden Guardians, right? But it's like they almost beat TSM twice by playing like super hard bot, right? So that's a point to bring
up. Hotline League, everybody brings up Golden Guardians.
Point.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you to Avali for the 400-person raid. Shout out to Avali. All right, so Kush. Oh, hey, I've got two parting words for you, Kush.
Yeah.
One is, well, this is more for everybody. The Run It episode this week, the show that I'm doing with Tim, which everyone should go check out if you haven't. The first two episodes are out. This one is going to be about how NA stacks up against some of the other regions stylistically, and that we're sort of playing we do a lot of things different in this region. So we're going to be highlighting some of those differences. If you are not used to listening to some of these other regions or whatever, you can sort of see how they're doing things differently that way. The second thing is, this is a lot of doom and gloom for TSM. I'm going to tell you why you're completely right, OG. So first off, TSM this split were shit until playoffs started to come in. All right, and then what you started to see. Here's the thing. A couple episodes ago predicted that TSM would win summer finals. There were multiple matches through, and the reason why is because they just kept powering up. They were just getting better and better and better every series. And so what I think is going to happen is you're just going to see, like, it's just up and to the right. I look at a lot of stock and investment TikToks, and whenever something is going up and to the right, that's good. And so right now, I think that that's going to keep happening, and then we're going to see this team be better than they ever have been because they're what is the term that all the callers always tend to use? It's their
Momentum.
momentum. Thank you. You knew exactly what it is.
Sounds like some
Momentum.
TSM stonks, baby. Let's go.
Exactly.
Yeah, dude.
That's
TSM
cool,
week 2.
Travis, but LGD and Fnatic actually had the same story where they powered up in playoffs.
Oh, that's actually true for like all these teams too. Is that they
Yeah.
all took like the hard road. Even Gen G was a gauntlet qualifying.
All right,
team.
whatever. We're talking about TSM. Kush, any shout outs before we move on to the next caller?
Well, shout out to bringing some LPL casters on here. I was really happy to see that, and sad that y'all won't be on the casting, but we'll miss you. But yeah, pleasure to be on with all you guys. Thank you.
Wherever Riot slips, I will come in to save the day. That is why we're going to do a Worlds format video too, by the way. That's actually true. We're doing one. Anyway, thanks, OG.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Mark, you want to grab the next caller?
Sure.
And,
All right,
and
bluefrost.
I would say, by the way, that getting to come on Hotline League probably about the same as casting Worlds. So I think everybody we could stop with the sadness for the LPL.
Some would
casters.
say better. Some
Yeah.
would say better. So
It's true. You have a lot more freedom in what you can say and do here. Yeah. Skips 35. I am Elvis 4. Doc
back.
Smart, Whiskey Jack, and Techno 1Q for the 6 months. Thank you. Blue Frost is here. Blue Frost, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex in Texas.
Dallas Fort Worth. I'm going to turn you up a little bit. You're a little quiet.
Oh, no worries.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I've got, because of the new playing format, I think it's got this is the best playing format we ever had, because this opens up, we get to see the minor regions playing each other in best of 5s, and I got 3 hypothetical scenarios that are possibilities. First one, we could see one of the emerging regions get into the main stage. 2, perhaps NA could go in winless in group stage if the stars align. And then the third, this is like by far the least likely one, but actually no, I'm not gonna one of those. I wasn't too stupid. But,
Okay.
Wait, I thought you had like a which of these, like if you're gonna stack rank the order of likelihood. I thought it was
you want
hypothetical.
to do that? Yeah, I gotta.
Yeah, that's what
All right, let's stack them up. Okay, first one. Let's say a major region, like one of the emerging regions, gets into the main stage of groups. 2, a pool 1 team other than TSM drops in the group stage, or 3, NA goes winless in groups. Leads to, like, I guess they're all really, really unlikely, but I think the playing format makes these possible.
Right. So to reiterate, I like this question because it was a hypothetical. Which one are the most likely to happen out of 3, kind of upset situations? The play-in team coming from a minor region, one of them getting through, a top-seeded team dropping, or 3, NA going winless at Worlds, which I don't know if that's quite totally an upset, but I think we should get at least 1 group win. So I would
Wait,
say
sorry,
that's pretty unlikely.
Are you saying it wouldn't be an upset if we don't win a single game?
I'm saying it's still like percentage-wise not like likely to happen, but it's not like an upset. I guess is what I'm saying. Where's the other ones?
people would be upset though.
Yeah. Yes. Yikes. Anyway, so which of the 3 is most likely? Sorry, we're talking about like a minor region, or like
I think that one's most likely.
That coming in from, or that team coming in through
making
play-ins.
It through play-ins. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And
I feel like that's most likely.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think, and I would say it'd be UOL, and the way that would happen would be UOL getting second in their group, because PSG, they don't have their mid jungle, from what I understand, and that affects a lot of. Sure, mid jungle is a good duo, but they still lose their jungle support synergy. So things like vision control on the map is like they're going to have to learn to work with like a new vision paradigm.
So, Kelsey and Hysterics, do you guys think any of these are more likely than others? Do you think it's most likely that we're going to see unicorns make it? In what's your expectation?
Kelsey, do you want to start?
Sure. So I think it's interesting that the top seed from each group goes to the main stage, right? That's how it works.
Yes.
So I think that makes it likely that, and it's only a single round robin in each group. So that
Yeah,
makes
it's
it
a lot more volatile too.
pretty possible that we see just like that makes it even like potentially likely that a minor region team or whatever we call it, emerging regions. I remember when Freak actually just like corrected me on Twitter like, for calling it a minor region. So
I have no idea what we call them anymore. I just crumble.
I
I'm
just-
like
I just-
emerging, minor, wild card.
emerging.
Yeah.
I usually go by like the fact that they aren't guaranteed a team in the group
So-
stage.
So we
That's-
think
That makes it kind of interesting. So I would like up it and say that I could see a team kind of like upsetting and coming out first in their group, just because they only have to win like a few, like one more game, right, than the second place team.
But
So that's-
again, that's why I think the plans are so good. We also get to see minor regions playing against each other in best of fives.
I would argue with that being like with that making plans plans format better. It makes it like more entertaining, I guess. But
Yeah.
It just gives it more. It feels
Story.
like there's more story to it. Yeah, because before you kind of, at least this is my take. I always saw it as, it's just a group stage and then major region just.
so we will see a emerging
also,
region emerge.
I also really, it's like I'm not super high on Nomads, and I think like Uniboy and Kongyu are pretty good players. So,
Yeah.
I don't think like people are really discounting PSG talent because of the roster change, but I think it could end up being good for them. So I don't know. It depends.
It just
Hysterics.
feels a lot
So
in
we're
the air.
trying to get through calls pretty quickly, but Hysterics, what's your take on
Yeah,
this?
I'll be super quick. I wish it was double round robin in play-ins, even though it's play-ins. I know people don't really care about minor regions, but I agree the most likely is a minor region making it through, especially if, like, OPL has a chance to hit a best of 5 for the first time ever, because, OPL day 1 looks great, OPL day 2 looks crap. It's the OCE curse, but at the very least, seeing a minor region come through and then a top team making it out, they're going to win. And NA is going to win at least 1-2 games in groups. No one's going winless. No region should be going winless, honestly. So I don't think that's likely at all. But
That one
The
depends.
first ones.
That one I feel like depends on a minor region getting in and then TL going into group of death with.
yeah, I just think, like, on your take as well, I would say that, yeah, Unicorns of Love are my team, at least in Group B, like, to be the minor region. That looks like such a good team. And honestly, the new format's fantastic. I wish it was double round robin, because I think single round robin doesn't give you a true understanding. Like, one game is cheese, to put it lightly. Or, one game is based on draft error, and that's not favorable. So, yeah, I like the new format, and I hope I see, like, maybe OPL getting into a best of 5. That would be a true OCE fan's dream.
Bluefrost,
can't
thank you
get
so
wins.
much.
It's a lot easier for OPL to get into best of 5. They have to win.
That it is. Just don't come last.
Don't come last.
Yeah, don't get
Bluefrost,
mad.
any shout outs or plugs you want to make before we move on to the next one?
I'm gonna give Alienware a shout out, and then also shout out to Hysterics and the LPL guys. It's nice because I was able to catch the finals on the way to work, and it was a treat.
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
happy to see Knight at Worlds, and he's also a lefty, right? Like, does Knight play with like mouse on left hand?
Yeah. He used to play cross-armed. Fun fact for anyone in 2019. He actually used to play like this.
What the hell?
And then I don't know who told him, but they said swap your hands over, and he's like, oh, yeah. So he used to play like that. He used to play cross-armed because.
Does he
I don't know.
play with Did he switch the mouse and keyboard to like a mouse on the left, or?
No, well, I mean, he crossed his arms first because he didn't, and then I think he just swapped it over.
Yeah,
That is wild. All right. Anyway,
I heard he plays with motion controls. Actually, he's just
there's a
But does he
player
play
out.
with a trackball.
There's a player I once heard about. I don't know if this story is public, so I won't say who told me it or which player it was in which game. But there's a esports athlete in a FPS who apparently grew up his whole life with the left and right headset swapped on the wrong ears.
Oh.
And so when he started playing these FPS games, like it became an issue where one of the headsets you couldn't swivel the microphone arm to the other side because he'd put it on backwards every time, and so it was this huge issue where like in his brain, hearing like bullets on the right meant that somebody was on his left or something, because this is just the way he played forever, which is insane.
Dude, that's amazing though.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah,
actually.
make that work is like that. That's respect. It's
Anyway, thank you, Bluefrost, for the call.
No problem. I was gonna give another example of a player using like interesting controls, but
yeah,
like,
have a good one.
It'll be quick. It's there's a Street Fighter player who plays with like his face, like his mouth, because I think he has a hand or arm issue that basically had to like uses like face and like on the controller.
That's cool.
But he's like a really good Street Fighter 4 player.
Well, thank you for the call, Bluefrost. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, man.
Everyone.
All right, moving on to the next caller. We've got, let's see. Oh, Team Corgi Mid, thank you for the 14 months. Real Maliak, Liberi, quote me if Pars, Ints, Minzuba, Trickstery, Insulin Shots, Ari Waddle, and it looks like Costanza's here. Costanza, where are you calling from?
bluejay.
Oh.
I should have known with the FlyQuest combo.
Honestly, I only took a FlyQuest take because no one was putting any FlyQuest takes in, and I'm like, we're going to Worlds and there's no FlyQuest takes, so yeah.
I don't know if Hysterics watches the show, but bluejay is someone who constantly changes his name in Discord and constantly tries to trick me into getting onto the show. And now there's a mini revolution going on in the YouTube comments. Everyone's just saying make bluejay like a permanent co-host or like guest or whatever.
We don't reward poor behavior on this show.
No,
anyway,
if anything, we're going to permaban him because people are getting too rowdy about it.
Yeah. bluejay, what do you want to talk about? You're calling from what, Ontario or whatever? But
yeah, Ontario, Toronto, something, right?
Someplace in Canada.
It's all the same. Yeah.
What do you want to talk about?
I just want to talk about how I don't think FlyQuest should be totally written off. I actually think that for now, I know the meta is kind of shifting a little bit, but I think for now that the meta does fit their play style a little bit. And what I mean by that is more specifically bot lane, just because bot lane isn't exactly like hard carry bot laners. It's more, as Kelsey said earlier, role players. I know you don't like that term, but I do think it is accurate for what Wild Turtle kind of brings. And if that stays, consistent, then I think that will be a really good plus for FlyQuest. And I also like talking percentages. I think that the 5 to 10% chance of getting out of groups is fair, I think.
For any team or for FlyQuest?
No, for FlyQuest.
Okay. So you're saying that instead of what Kelsey's like 3%, or I don't want to put words into Kelsey's mouth.
Doubled it.
No, I think she said about 5. I'm saying I agree.
I said 5. Don't worry.
Okay.
I thought I heard someone say 5. My bad.
It sounds like Hysterics said 5.
I said 5. I'll give you 5.
Okay. So you're saying instead of 5, it should be 10%.
I mean, whatever, man. I'm just saying that I
you
don't
said
think
you
that
like
they should
percentages, and so that you gave percentage.
I mean, we're getting really specific here. I think.
I mean, you said you brought us to this metric, and then I used the metric, and then you're like, whatever, man, whatever.
So I absolutely do love percentages, but I think if we're going to argue between 2 and 5%, then maybe I don't like percentages that much.
Okay, I just
put him down for bluejay to be a permanent co-host. Let's
go. So, all right. So you think FlyQuest is underrated in their group, and that they might not be a for sure thing, but that they have a better chance of getting out of their group than the other regions, and that the show is sort of underrating their chances.
I'm just saying that FlyQuest is kind of being written off from what I have seen. Now, of course, I haven't spoken with absolutely every person, but from what I've seen, I think FlyQuest is a little bit more written off, whereas I think their chances are about as equal as the other two teams, as TSM and TL. I think all of them sit around 5 to 10% range.
Dairy Cat in Twitch chat says, Senna nerfed, Kate nerfed, Azir nerfed, quote, meta shifting to Fly.
Yes, I did realize that, and that's why I said that it is sort of shifting, or I don't know if that's exactly the words that I use, but yes, I am aware of these nerfs in the bot lane.
It sort of shifts, and it sort of fits them is what I got. So
okay.
All right.
Blue
I'll
Jay
go
comes
back.
in with this.
All right. Let me go to bat for Blue Jay a little bit, and
Yeah.
then you guys can tear me apart because I realize this is a bit of a kind of ignoring it. Like I think the whole roaming meta support, which feels like what is taking over the world and what's preferred when you look at the LPL supports, Barrel, and I think Ignar fits that prototype of playmaking roaming support. You know, he had the highest, or I guess lowest duo percent to his bot laner in NA. So like, Turtle's comfortable being on an island if that's how people are going to play. Mid is pretty open right now. I think they got exposed a little bit about not being able to deal with globals, and hopefully that they pick up that in response. But PoE does have a relatively deep champion pool. I think you can criticize, him not being the scrappiest early game player and having a certain play style, but he is pretty good. That mid lane is disgusting. Chovy and Knight being in there, and most likely even Humanoid coming in will be another really good mid laner that they'll have to deal with. And then Santorin is kind of like inspired to me, where they both mostly played utility junglers in the regular season, but have swapped a little bit more towards carry in playoffs, but have actually made that swap relatively well. I think Santorin can play both styles. So, like, to Blue Jay's point, sort of they fit in the meta. I just think there's this black hole concern about top lane.
I also don't think we know what the meta is for sure yet as well. That's the other
True.
thing too. Meta does shift as Worlds goes on.
Okay, so Kelsey, Hysterics, you guys by default, because he's disagreeing with your take on FlyQuest, you disagree with his. So explain why he is wrong, and feel free to be bloody and aggressive with it, because Blue Jay reserves no timidity.
I don't disagree with his take in the sense that I think that, like I already said, I think FlyQuest probably have the best chance of something weird happening and them getting outright of the 3 NA teams. Like, that's where I am.
Yeah, but he thinks that the meta is sort of, kind of, a little shifting.
I don't like it. It's difficult to respond to him just because he hasn't really defined what he thinks the meta is going to be. So I can't really respond to his take on like how it suits. But I think in general, in terms of, I think the way that it's actually interesting because I feel like the way Santorin and Karsa kind of play is very supportive of their laners. Yeah. So they're similar in that regard. I don't like the way that Karsa plays because I think the way he plays is like really easy to abuse in the current jungle meta. But he has to like kind of go off of the back of, okay, his laners are going to be super ahead. So even though he plays like kind of antithetical to I think how he should, that works for them. I think if anything, like the bot meta will open up more carries given like the new patch changes. So that's where I think it kind of shifts away. Like Senna getting changed and nerfed actually hurts them because I feel like the mage Senna kind of style was really, really good for Fly. Given the way that PoE and Wild Turtle and Ignar all play. So that's, I think if anything, like it shifts kind of away from where they are. So that would be like my response specifically to that part of the take.
I would just say that like you be really simple about this and look, how does Power of Evil stack up against Knight and Chovy? Like, is FlyQuest going to get to the point in the game where they don't get bodied in the first 15 minutes by like the two best mid laners in the tournament? And, coming back to like jungle style, like Caster's ability to, he plays towards top side quite a lot as well. And then, it was someone like Solo be able to get away with like these Shen, these Ornn picks, like, whether it's blind or not, when you have 369 as a carry top laner who, again, does the same thing as Knight. Like the solo lanes in this group, I don't think FlyQuest will be able to match. And I truly think like you get punished in draft as well as the early game through laning phase.
Yeah, as much as we were laughing about, Finn having a rough time, Impact having a rough time, Solo's going to have just as much of a rough time against 369. And, oh my God, I'm blanking. Doran. Yeah.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree with top lane. I think top lane is easily the biggest concern, especially since we saw that. And I know this is like such an easy take, but like if you can't perform in NA in top lane, you're going to have a hard time at Worlds. And I know that's an easy and repetitive take, but it's just so true. And I think that FlyQuest will struggle in the top lane if they're going to struggle in one position specifically.
Yeah, I mean, in NA, I look across and I see that laning phase is so much more calm. Like, it's so much more peaceful, where LPL especially, it's all about risk versus reward. Like, is it worth taking this 50-50 trade if it means that I'm going to get the shove out in lane and then push for early herald? Or, like, am I going to find a solo kill here if, like, I take that 50-50 that the jungler's not here as well? So I think that punishment could be good for a team like FlyQuest, but most likely it could just go downhill.
The NA teams, as I've said, will just control the other teams. Okay, they're gonna LPL is gonna come at us like an angry animal, and there's just gonna be a leash that we keep these teams on to stop. Anyway,
We're gonna bore them.
We're gonna bring back the old beef noodle meme. Remember, like if you guys remember from 2014, like the beef noodle soup.
yes,
right?
Didn't the teams get? They all went to, what's the name of that restaurant?
Oh, that was 2016 MSI, right? That was like when they went to
Heidi Lau?
Yeah, Heidi Lau. I can't, for some reason was blanking on it. So. Like and Faker said no more Heidi Lau. So.
Yes. Okay. Wait. So you're thinking of a different noodle soup.
Yeah, I'm thinking of 2014.
I don't know.
It was like EDG bombed out because someone gave Name beef noodle soup, right? And it was poisoned, and he got food poisoning.
I don't know either of the fucking references you guys are making. I'm in the dark on both of those.
So my brain is very small, and whenever you guys reference like, oh yes, in 2017 when the top lane meta shifted halfway through groups to this thing, and like it totally favored this region because they've been playing that stuff I don't remember, but the memes I remember, and those are always great.
I think it's very telling that when we're talking about NA's expectations at Worlds, we're talking about soup.
Yeah.
Give me out. Next call.
Mark, you invented the soup meme. All right. Any other final thoughts, bluejay?
Just real quick, I want to know who you guys think is going to win Worlds.
LGD, apparently.
LGD, bro. Just
Kelsey.
Jack Daniels sponsorship. Let's see. Who do I think is gonna win? I think it's like boring to say TS, but I'm gonna say TES. So there you go.
Let's be boring.
I think it's so I think that meta kind of like favors the fact that they're coming with the ability to have like a carry bot. I don't think the meta is gonna swing like super hard into carry bot, but it's gonna open it up a bit more.
True.
Mark?
And yeah, I think that will help them.
I agreed with Kelsey. I said top.
Okay. I agree. It's going to be TSM, baby. TSM. There we go. That's what's happening.
Debated.
Yeah.
All right, go next caller.
Shout out to Twitch chat for giving me that joke. Anyway, Costanza, as you are known in Discord, any plugs before you go?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you.
See you guys.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Thanks for having me on.
Bye.
Off you go. Ari Waddle, I'm Yogi. Thank you for the 3 months. Neverlaster, Unholy 13, Iron Vaults, Retro TP, Revive COD, Vic like a Debooty, gifted a sub to Raz, Rico Suave, and then the Ovely May raid. Thank you. Aquatic Banana. Thank you.
TESM.
Shayok is here. Shayok, where are you calling from?
Iowa.
Iowa. Okay. Just Iowa?
Well, Sioux City, Iowa. It's a small town on the western side. Anyway.
Okay. You're a little quiet. I don't know if you can get a little closer to your microphone.
A little closer? I can get closer.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take was that getting rid of Reapered was the correct call.
Oh, okay. We're getting to the Reapered stuff.
Spicy.
I'm waking up. Enough of this. NA sucks. Let's talk about NA drama. All right, that's what this show is.
Let's talk about NA
founded
firing
on.
a coach. Now they don't suck. Here we go. Let's talk about the team that was historic and then missed Worlds.
The memes and the drama. I'm down to talk about C9 actually. I think it's really interesting.
Okay, so let's Shayok. Why do you think that it was a mistake? Oh wait, you said it was
good.
No,
you
yeah.
thought it was good. Sorry, continue.
Now we know Travis's opinion.
So multiple things. First one being that really coming from a coaching background myself, that if I have a team that's not doing well, usually at halftime, what do? You get them untilted, and you can kind of get them back on the right track. And this year that didn't happen. But also I feel like in the past, Reapered has always kind of already had them at a high level and just consistently kept them there, if that makes sense.
So some people in Twitch chat are confused about whether or not, like, the term fired is he was let go. Let's use that term instead because it's a little nicer. But yes,
Yeah.
you would be. I am not surprised that some people are confused because you've got Jack being like, "You're always going to be my best friend, pal," on Twitter, and like all the players being like, "So unfortunate that this happened," and if only this could have been avoided. Like, and you get the normal like, "Thank you, Reapered, for everything you've done." So yes, it is kind of the alternate reality dimension where, like, yes, he got let go. He was cut.
got put in a trash can and booted to the curb.
All right. So he's not like he was a free agent and his contract came up. He was let go from the organization. So Kelsey, you said you have stuff to talk about with this, and you were also a coach.
just talking about C9 in general.
Okay.
I don't really like. It's really hard for me to talk about what Reaper does because I have no idea, right? So, but I think it's. I guess I was less surprised than other people that it happened. So there's that. I think C9. I wouldn't say that what happened with C9 is an indication that a change has to happen, though. I don't know if this was necessary. I wouldn't say, like, I think people are really quick to associate the Reaper being let go with C9 kind of bombing out, just because that was the most recent result, right? And that was the most recent thing. But I would guess they're not necessarily like directly correlated, because obviously you have people coming out on Twitter and saying, like, this is super disappointing that it happened, and everyone, we want to run back the roster and everything like that, because we don't necessarily think it's like a systemic or issue. So for me, I don't necessarily think it's fair to jump to the conclusion that the two things are super related. But I do think when you do have something like this happen, the kind of responsibility is to fans and sponsors to indicate that you don't want shit like this to happen again.
I see. You're saying somebody had to pay the price.
I don't know if that's how I would say, because again, I don't necessarily think that these two things are like correlated. I don't think Reapered was quote unquote let go because of the fact that they didn't make Worlds. But I can also see that being like, okay, well, a change has to occur. We don't think it's the players' fault. So we're just going to try to make it seem new or exciting for next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll say he's always been interesting. Reaper has been the center of a lot of attention, I guess you say. Not quite like Parth level.
I mean, I think most people historically would say greatest coach North America's ever had.
True, but I think he's also been, pretty criticized as well for some of the failures with his drafts in different stages of either domestic or international play. People have, I think a lot of the players that end up leading that org too don't necessarily, they don't go like, oh yeah, best coach I ever had. Like, I think that a lot of times it feels like there's a bit of bad blood. I mean, some of that's obvious with some of the benching stuff that has occurred under him, but I think, it's not like people, like, it's always these weird things where when like Sven or whoever's on these shows, there's like always trying to read between the lines, and it's definitely weirder.
Yeah, he's never like, yes, it was great. Or these players are never like, it was great working with Reapered. I really wish I had been with him. I was still with him. He was the greatest coach I ever worked with.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There's always like a weird air to it. And even when they're being positive, because they are still being positive sometimes. I don't want to say like it's all negative, but like it's one of those things where there's always been these kind of question marks. I know some coaches have also, like, I've talked to some, but they're like, God, he's not even that good. Like, people just give him way too much credit. Like, in terms of drafting against him, they're like, it's not impossible. This insane thing that people kind of give him credit for. So he's always been like, I guess, just like almost a little bit enigmatic in the North American scene, despite how we all think he's good. But I also heard that like some of the things that were going on, their scrims were, like they won 33 straight games or whatever it was. They heard that Golden Guardian say something like that. And like, I think practice became a struggle a little bit to maintain like focus. And they sound like they messed around too much in scrims and some of that stuff. I think it was Sven's interview, maybe, that he was talking about this, or maybe it was Niski. I can't remember.
You got too confident.
Yeah, and they were just like, it falls on the coaching staff to keep people motivated and focused and all that kind of stuff. And it sounds like that might have been a bit of an issue.
Yeah. So, a couple things here. One is, I think a lot of the reason why, like, if you consider that other players didn't like Reapered maybe when they left, or that was at least the vibe we got, it's always because Reapered always gave off the tone of being this guy who it was like his way or the highway, right? Like, this is why I'm so surprised that some fans at least have been like, oh yeah, TSM Reapered, because Reapered is like the antithesis of the way TSM seems to describe what their coaching situation is. Hysterics looks like he's falling asleep during this LCS conversation, I understand. His camera froze. That's why he's just been staring intently.
That's the trick. He's like, I don't need to talk. I'm going to turn my camera off. He went up to the bathroom. He got some food.
But like, so on one end of the spectrum, you have this TSM style that they've talked about this year, which is like, you get the feeling like Parth is there to mediate. The coach or the players themselves are really the ones that are making most of the decisions, and like maybe Parth helps on the drafting stuff, and Parth helps facilitate this. And that is what supposedly what a lot of the LEC coaches do. You can go back and watch the Rift Rivals Hotline League where like Doublelift was literally talking to the coaches about the LEC coaches about this stuff. And on the other, it's always felt like Reapered with this kind of like, oh, you're not playing? Okay, we're going to bench you at the start of the split, even though we've been doing really well because you've decided that you're not going to put as much attention into this, and like, jokes about the belt and all that stuff. So, which are a little borderline in my opinion anyway. But so it's not surprising to me that players have had this kind of impression of him, because like,
right,
yeah, and that's why I think that, like, the TSM Reaper thing is so funny to me.
So I think it's interesting that the perception is that he's very my way or the highway, because I would say that most of like the interviews and content I've seen about him is that he's like actually pretty chill in terms of like letting players play what they think is good, like stuff like that. In terms of roster decisions, I've heard it's very Reapered run, but everything else I feel like it's not like he's kind of controlling everything that the team does and all the ideas are his ideas and stuff like that. That's never the impression that I've gotten. Again, I don't know specifics of what he's done, but like, for example, Pastry Time did a pretty good piece on Reapered a while back. Stuff like where he kind of like was embedded in his coaching.
I actually never saw this. That's a good thing to go back and look.
And he talked about how Reapered was like, the way that article made him seem like way more kind of facilitating in the way that he was coaching. So I don't know, but yeah, very interesting figure for sure. Because I do think that, like, again, reading between the lines, no one has super praised him, but how many coaches have players come out and super praised? So hard to say,
yeah,
but
and like the whole benching thing too is something that can leave a bad taste in a player's mouth, even if you can argue it was the right thing. Like C9 getting from 10th to Worlds, and then I think that was the same year they had that Nuts Worlds run. And like, does that same thing happen if they did it a different way, even if it did piss the players off? Like, those are the weird questions you start getting into.
Yeah, I think again, it's because like those things have surrounded him for a while. It's hard for me to say that them failing to make Worlds is like the reason why that he was dropped, right? Maybe it was like one of many ones, but I don't know. Really hard to say. I do think Cena not making Worlds is way more interesting, and talking about that conversation than talking about like Reaper being removed or that being good for the team, just because I can't really speak to what he does. So.
We don't have too much time to do that conversation, and quite frankly, we've had it on other episodes.
I'm sure you have, so.
Sorry to kill that, but I don't know. So Shayok, I guess we never really addressed Shayok's point, which is what, like, was it a good idea to make this? Part, I think the problem is it's really difficult because anytime you're talking about coaching, it's the same thing with like coach of the split and all that stuff. It's like, how do you evaluate this? So I don't know. Mark, what do you let yours laughing?
I'm laughing at Hysterics. It looks good.
Yeah, dude, I'm now the S man.
Trying to fix his camera.
So it's like I remember doing shows in China, and stuff like this would always happen. So good luck.
Hey,
Yeah.
it lasted 2 hours. It's not bad. We're
I
almost-
kind of like the new animation. Is that like with the little white sparkles coming off there?
I guess
Yeah.
it's trying to find the video, even though I refreshed it. I don't know.
Hysterics.
You're back.
Oh!
Mark Z is a
Hey,
Skype-
hang on.
Skype
How long will it
convert.
last?
Anyway, so do we think? What does anybody have an opinion on whether or not it was a good thing or a bad thing to remove Reapered? Even though I know we all know the answer is frequently what the audience doesn't want to hear, which is like, how can anyone know other than the players, the GM, and stuff? Yeah. Mark is in the Skype chat saying he has a hilarious story he can't share. I don't know why he's saying that to all of us if he can't share it. But
I'm because you're like, is it good or bad? And I'm like, well, I have some extra context, but it's like, can't say anything.
yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, whatever.
I was trying to tell you that, so I didn't have to answer. But
Sorry to out you. It's just very funny because I don't know why you would say, like, how does that help us right now? Mark's like,
I'm telling you, I don't
have
have a fucking answer. That's what I was trying to tell you. And then
okay. That was
read
not the way it worked. Anyway, Mark, do you have an answer on this?
No, I don't have an answer.
Okay. By the way, we have an emote. We have an emote for this exact situation. Everyone in Twitch chat.
What is it? Hang up?
No, it's the
Does it
leak
hang
emote.
up on you?
Oh.
Kelsey, do you have a take?
I don't really have a take.
All right.
So,
All right, next caller.
Hysterics, please. You have no political ties to our region. Please just
No.
say something.
People don't know what coaches do behind the scenes. They could be fantastic. They could be crap. Reaper took them to Worlds for 3 years in a row. He has a reputation, much like Coma did. And then look how that worked out for him. So let's just hope that Reapered gets a good second chance. Well, not second chance, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Finds his
Let-
way into a
let it
team.
take.
Yeah, here's what I will say. I think Reaper is really good. I think at
Oh.
some point in time they decided that like he wasn't the best situation for where that team was headed. I don't know. Maybe people build up animosity over times working at different companies. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe there was, I don't know, any number of different things. Maybe he just wasn't providing the value. I don't know. But I do think that Reapered is still good and will continue to be a really good coach in North America if he decides to go somewhere. I'm just worried he's going to end up in like a team where he doesn't get the support that he got on C9 and his reputation will get tarnished, which I think happens.
Maybe he
sometimes
comes back
over here.
overseas. I mean, he was on EDG for a very short stint. So maybe he
heard
comes
stories
over
about
to
that.
Korea.
But I won't say anything.
But, okay, great. This is just the fucking show where people have stories that they don't share. There's going to be, this is great because now I get to sit through all the comments that are like, this is why I don't watch Hotline League and I watch other shows, even though evidently they have gotten to like an hour and 45-minute mark in this episode. I watch other shows because people aren't afraid to say the things that they put.
Hey, you know what really does a good job is if you call more attention to it instead of letting me go to the next caller.
Please, everyone, like
we
this
belabor the
YouTube
point.
video so that when the dislikes come in from the people who say they don't watch this show but have watched
is
an
the
hour and
third
45 minutes
time.
of it,
At the
I just
beginning with
need
EU, again
all the
with
help I can get. Shayok,
Fnatic or TSM.
I'm sorry that we don't have a great answer for you. It's difficult whenever we
No,
don't.
hey,
watch
I
the
just
coaching
wanted a
situation.
discussion. I appreciate it.
Well, hopefully this one was satisfying, even if it won't be for the inevitable YouTube comments.
For sure.
Hey.
Hey.
Anything you want to say before we move on to the next caller?
I mean, when has one of Jack's roster moves not worked out?
I mean, evidently this year because they didn't go to World Tour first time.
Fair
Thanks so
enough.
much for the call.
Fair enough. Yep. Have a good one.
All right. Moving on to the next caller. We got Omniscient here. Omniscient, where are you calling from?
I'm coming I'm calling from Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. What do you want to talk about on this episode?
So I'm gonna talk about how only one Western team is gonna make it out of groups, and that's gonna be one Western team from the Group of Life. And so the reason
Which Western team?
So it's either most likely G2, but by sheer luck, maybe TL. Yeah.
G2, the only team to make it out from the West, unless something crazy happens, in which it'll be TL. Why do you think
feel
this?
like I need to do content that's like, this is how NA teams get out of groups because this is depressing. Anyway, keep going.
So the reason being is because Group B is obviously
That's doomed.
Damwon, and then JDG. Like that's doomed.
Doomed,
Then
yeah.
Group D is what is it called? It's TES and DRX. Oh yeah, top. Yeah. So that one's doomed also. And then for Group C, I think that Gen G, and then I think LDG is gonna get out of play-ins, which means they have to go to Group C. So I think it's gonna be Gen G and then LDG. So then Group A is the only one left standing. I think Suning is gonna get first place, which means that second place is gonna go to G2 or TL by some miracle.
All right. So one thing I definitely want to take it with this call is the more Europe angle. I know we've talked a lot about NA teams, but I definitely want to focus a little bit more on some of these other ones.
Well, let's just get straight into it. Kelsey, Hysterics, will only one Western team make it out? How likely is that scenario?
After you.
What?
Honestly, it's difficult for me to say because I actually think LGD will make it out of Group C.
They're going to win Worlds. How's that possible? You have to get out of the group to win Worlds.
They'll get out.
So that's why I think, right now, I'm thinking it's gonna be probably. Actually,
I agree with one. I agree with one here because but I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be like, maybe it's only one. It's going to be like, it's definitely going to be one. There's going to be a Western team second in Group A. So you're going to get G2 or Team Liquid at the very least, right? So we're looking at and again, I don't have high expectations of much even being first seed of PCS, but your Western group is coming out of Group A. That's why I like this take, because Group D and Group B I agree with, even though FlyQuest might be a higher percentage. Group C was my substitute group of life, just because these are all kind of like middling teams, bar maybe TSM, due to how Fnatic played finals, due to, and TSM playing finals was good enough. And LGD, they're winning Worlds anyway. So I think there's a chance you get 2 from Group C, but I think Group B and Group D is where you kind of cut off. So
you
one guaranteed, I'd say.
One guaranteed, but do you think we'll have more than one? Just say what's most likely. Is it more likely?
Most likely one. Most likely one.
Most likely only one.
I think at least 2.
Most likely 2, at least. Is Kelsey?
At least 2.
Okay.
I think I'm a little bit more with Kelsey. I mean, we were talking about how FlyQuest can get out with that 5 to 10% chance and some of that stuff, but I think that applies pretty much just as well to. Oh my god, my brain's turning off. I have not slept enough.
I think. Yeah, go ahead.
Mads, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I think the arguments that we were using for why FlyQuest can get out of that group apply basically just as well to Mad. If DRX goes out there and lays a turd, I don't think it's like automatically FlyQuest who picks it up. And
it doesn't even have to be DRX laying a turd, right? Like, I think TRX have a lot of problems. They're not like a super solid team, in my opinion. Right. So, they'll just play like DRX plays. I think Death and Carry is Gabalian. Jovi is obviously really strong, but their top side is pretty. I don't know. They play like really strange. I think Piosik got advantages in the final that he shouldn't have gotten that were basically smite advantages. And yeah, his pathing was really weird. Like I don't want to get into the details, but I think so for me, I can see like Mad or maybe Fly like getting out. I don't feel super like the Group D is really interesting to me just because I think it's a top esports 6-0 group, and I'm not really confident in any of the other 3 teams, right, in that group.
I think it's just dependent on DRX. I mean, for me, it's like you're right about the inconsistencies, but if DRX shows up, I think that's
it's
like
not even that they're inconsistent. I just think that they have a lot of issues, and I want to VOD review them more because
and their draft has been peculiar.
I can't particularly articulate like their problems. I think Piosik puts himself in situations where he makes really inefficient decisions, so they are not able to succeed unless either Deft or Chovy is in like a really, really strong position.
Yeah.
And then, so I think that's a problem. It's just like the way that they play is not really strong in a jungle-centric meta. And then, but you can argue that about TES as well. So, all don't know,
Sure.
whatever.
I think you'd also throw some praise to Shadow. Like he can be
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little streaky, but when Shadow's on, he can take over games.
Yeah.
And I think Shadow is a little bit of a Lee Sin one trick sometimes. Has like that feel to him. I saw him he made really weird decisions in some of the games, like pathing down his bot doesn't have prio, and then like going for a level 2 gank that was good, but then revisiting the gank, and then the enemy jungler got super ahead. So I don't know, like Mad seemed to really struggle once their like first pick Kalista drafts stopped working and stuff like that. So that's why I'm not like really high on them. And then I'm not really high on FlyQuest either. So that's why, like, to me, the second seed of Group D is actually kind of an interesting race. So
Okay. Well,
I'll also quickly throw Fnatic. We didn't hit on them too much, but they're just so hard to place with how different their playoff run felt to the regular season. But they're another team that, like, historically they do well at Worlds. Reckless feels like a stud and almost always performs, and then they seem to adapt well in week 2. They have strong week 2s and have made a number of crazy runs. So, like, I don't think I would count Fnatic completely out of Group C either. Even though, I think I'm very confident about Gen G. I love Gen G, but then the second seed for that one is pretty open, and I would put TSM as the lowest percentage, and then probably Fnatic, then LGD. But I don't think there's, it's just hard to place Fnatic because it's a wide discrepancy.
I don't think LGD get out.
Oh, how could you?
So I think it will be Gen G Fnatic is what I'm leaning to now. Now, my opinion might change because I do want to like do more VOD review of a lot of these teams, but that's how I'm feeling now. So I think it'll be at least 2.
all right. Well, caller, Omniscient. We'll see if you are Omniscient, if we only get one team to make it out. It seems like Hysterics is in your camp, and Mark and Kelsey think we'll see at least a couple more. So we will see how it goes. But thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to say before we move on?
Yeah. I don't think any Western team is gonna make it to semis. I think they're all, especially like if they end up getting like if the way that what I think pans out, I think that like even if 1 or 2 Western teams, like say G2 makes it out, I think they're just gonna end up facing like a Damwon, JGG, or TS and just lose that.
Yeah.
So I don't think any Western team is making it past quarters, even if they do make it out of groups. And then for shout out, I'd like to shout out LS for getting me into League. So yeah.
He reached out about coming on a future episode, so we'll have him on at some point in time during Worlds. So
Suddenly the take makes sense.
Cool.
Thank you, Omniscient.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy.
Yeah, Mark. Really
Final
quickly.
caller.
What?
Okay. Huh?
Okay. I'm gonna start our little bounty.
Oh, sneaky.
So, really quickly, guys. We are starting a Twitch bounty. For a sponsorship that Twitch offers for To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, which is a new book that is coming out. Mark and I, as you might know, do fantasy novel stuff. So this is actually really cool that Twitch is offering this bounty for this. And so immediately after the show, and it's very helpful if you stick around because the bounty kind of, peeling back a little bit of it. It pays out based off how many of you guys are watching. So stick around. We're going to listen to 8 minutes of the audiobook and then talk about it afterwards. This is by Christopher Paolini. So stick around afterwards. But anyway, Mark, you want to grab the next person?
Sure.
All right. And by the way, thank you to Slurp Sloth, Success, Brawler Higa, Reef, AW, Dr. Manhattan for 34 months at tier 2. Holy moly. Real Foxy for 34 months at tier 1. Your boy Graph, MWF006, and Shadow Case. Thank you to all of them. Skips35 is our last caller. Skips, what do you want to talk about on the show? Oh, sorry, where are you calling from?
Yeah, I was gonna say you almost forgot something there.
You've been on previously, I think, right?
Yeah, and I saved your scam train at the beginning of the stream. So
Yeah,
that's
you're a
okay.
god. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Where are you calling from?
East Lansing, Michigan.
East Lansing, Michigan. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I want to talk about how a non-LPL team is going to win Worlds this year.
Oh, okay.
I'm down.
Do you have a region in mind?
No, I just kind of put this in with no thought.
I was ready to hear some like well-constructed, detailed take about how like LPL teams are easy to expose with X, Y, and Z, and so there's that. That's all right. We'll go with it.
I wasn't expecting that level, but I thought we get some feeling behind it at least. Just to tilt hysterics, but I guess this is not going to work.
Gibbs, given that you have spent zero time on this, how would you justify your opinion?
Well, it's definitely not LGD. So there's that.
Okay, so
All right,
there's three other teams. If you want to continue,
Let's see. Who are the other three?
What do you think? There's a regional issue at all?
Nice. I like this take.
Probably not. I don't know. China's pretty good.
Okay.
But
I'm
that is
gonna
good
do it. I'm gonna make your argument. Let's go. Okay.
All right.
So I think TES is really, really easy to abuse the jungle, given the current meta. I think like if you basically Karsa paths to a lane that doesn't get prio because he's like terrified that the enemy team is going to dive one of his lanes. So he always like anticipates a 2v2 situation, but if you just invade him early on that side, then I think he ends up being like really, really far behind. And that's a strategy that I would love to see a team do because no one is doing that kind of strategy versus TES, and it's driving me insane. And then I think, let's see, Jingdong Gaming. Everyone talks about how Yagao is like really, really abusable, but he has enough one tricks at this point that I think you don't target mid lane. I think that if you're going to target JD Gaming, you're going to be denying Zoom like some of his really, really strong like blinds. So like GP, or like stuff like that. He's like what I would call a blind carry. So if you deny like him these kinds of picks, then I think you're in a position where the rest of the map is like easier to deal with. I think Kanavi doesn't abuse jungle matchup enough for me to think that he's just gonna like run away, because again, TS versus JDG, they never use that, and it drives me crazy, and that's why I think like that's a problem. Lumao, roaming, I think you should play mid to bot versus JDG.
Yep.
So counter pick mid and then like set up so that you can form on bottom so that Lumao can't just leave lane and roam with jungle. And then let's see, next team is Suning. I already talked about what I think their issue is in terms of their flanks well. So basically making sure resets are important, setting up objectives early. I think this is why JDG does really well against Suning, because they're really good at like trading tempo to set up dragons early and then get like flank vision in and collapse on Suning like this. And then finally, LGD. If LGD don't get like a favorable mid jungle 2v2, I just don't think they're a threat. So draft for that, maybe counter pick mid on 5p, stuff like that, and then play for that. And as long as you know how to play a bot matchup, then you can abuse Kramer for like blinding Ezreal. There you go.
Hysterics, Kelsey literally just exposed your entire region. All right, how does it feel? How does it feel to have not even an academy coach, just a head of development for LCS just crumble all of your world's contenders in front of your own eyes?
But my question is, how do any teams do? There's 4 different teams. This is the thing. That's why LPL is so strong this year. Is because there's 4 very different play styles. There's very much like lane dominance from top esports we talked about. And I know it extends past that, but it's an easy way to start. There's like one of the best skirmishing and like one of the best junglers on JDG. And then there's a team like Suning who, sure, like they get abused with windows of tempo and especially windows around dragons and like Rift Heralds, but they're a team who, like, through jungle advantage as well as individual skill, can kind of take over games. So I don't know. I don't think saying a non-LPL team is going to win Worlds is like saying, it's not raining today. I know you can't see outside. It's raining in Shanghai. I think it's bullshit.
So I think the interesting thing about LPL teams is this region doesn't care about the myth of well-roundedness. They just don't care, right? They find something that works for them, and then they drill playing that way over and over and over and over again. That's why every LPL team ends up being super meta dependent, because there are really obvious counter strategies to dismantle like these types of teams. But the chances are you're not as good at executing these counter strategies as they are at executing the strategy that they've been playing all year. And in some cases, like RNG, they're for years, right? In general. So that's why, like, that's the issue with teams is it's like I can give you a way that I think would be good against the LPL teams, but unless like the meta is favorable for you, you probably won't execute it as well.
Yeah,
they will execute their strategy.
I think just tracking LPL junglers like purely if a Western team's going to beat them is like junglers seem to be at the core of it all in most teams. At least like we talk about LGD, like how Castle reacts to his lanes. Like even though you could say that generally about any League of Legends teams, like LPL junglers a lot of the time dictate tempo and dictate the pace of the game in the first 20 minutes and how like these teams set up for neutrals. So I would say like it's got to be a case of jungle diff that really takes down LPL teams and kind of gets them disjointed and finds those windows. So yeah, that's optimism.
Yeah, I like both your points about just like the differentiation of the teams, and how like whatever this world's meta ends up being, at least one LPL team will be good at that meta. Like if there's a lot of solo lane focus, like all right, TS, here you go. I mean, they can even probably play bot lane just because Jackie Love's a monster too. But like you have different like is it early game, is it late game? Like they're not. It's not like the LPL is permafight, brain off, from 5 or 6 years ago kind of thing that people kind of always considered them. So yeah, I think they're really hard to knock out on any sort of like, oh, they play this way and that's not going to work, as well as just individual talent. Like they're probably going to have the most players on a lot of top lists. Knight and Jackie Love are arguably like close to 1-2 in the tournament on the same team. And even then, like Jackie Love, you can say like, okay, is it Ruler or him for best bot lane? And then you're looking at best mid and best bot lane, on the same team, like how you want to break it down for top. That's why I'm leaning for top. But yeah, these issues that Kelsey has highlighted, you still need to be good enough to exploit them. And that's really hard to do. I think that's the biggest concern. And so I'm still leaning towards probably an LPL team because I don't have that much faith outside Demon.
Oh.
Skips. Kelsey did all the work for you. So great job.
Yeah, no, she kind of hit all the points I had written down, so it's okay.
Why written down? What did you tell her?
Yeah, we pre-planned. Like I met up with this guy. What's your name again?
Skip. Yeah,
Skip. We had a pre-show coffee, and he just gave me all his notes. It was good.
Great. Yeah.
Yep, that's how it works.
That would actually be such a funny episode if all these different analysts just like picked out callers and fed them points. And I'm having to like be like, oh fuck, what the trying to defend.
I'm ready.
Thanks, Skips. Great contribution. Really appreciate it. Anything you want to shout out before we close out the show?
My friend Mitch, he said he wanted to be shout out, so there's that. There you go, Mitch. And Twitch Prime.
Great, thank you. Hey, I was gonna tease you until you said the Twitch Prime thing, so I really appreciate that, and I do agree.
I appreciate
it's actually
that.
called I think it's just called Prime Gaming now. They changed it.
Yeah, sorry, Prime.
Any
Prime Gaming.
Prime gamers in the chat. Thanks, Skips. Appreciate the call.
Yep, no problem.
Okay. All right, that closes out the show. We're gonna do some quick shout outs. Hysterics, where can people find you? What do you want to plug? What's going on?
I guess Twitter, because Twitter has everything else. I Twitch stream as well, a lot of the time talking about LPL or showing how fun Chinese solo queue is, because everyone fights and invades at level 1 every single game. So a lot of shit happens there. But yeah, hopefully LPL next year is the main place where people can find me. Back here in Shanghai.
What is your Twitter?
Spring.
What's your Twitch?
At Hysterics Cast for both. What's on the screen that you've nicely put above my little window? Sure. That's for both.
Kelsey?
Thank you.
Yeah, Twitter. Right now, I will shout out 100 Thieves because hooray.
She said right now.
Right
just
now.
a hint about what
for long.
free agency might be bringing to as her contract is expiring with the organization. Who knows?
Who knows?
What could happen?
Are you doing anything for Worlds, Kelsey?
I would like to, I'm probably going to do some content. but I'm just kind of trying to decide specifically what I want to do because I don't want to do like kind of the same stuff. I'm probably going to do more videos again. Yep. So that'll probably, some of that stuff will probably come out before the games begin in next week, I guess. So
yeah. Well,
Awesome.
looking forward to seeing that. And Kelsey, if you want to feed me any questions about any of these other regions, whenever I'm going to do interviews, you've done that in the past when we worked together. So feel free to keep doing it now that we don't.
sounds good.
Mark, what do you got?
They announced the NA is there's some casting going on. I don't cast, so obviously I won't be casting Worlds. So you can catch me after a lot of the days. We'll have like an hour post show, I think, and that'll be in North America.
Nice.
So I'll be on that. Still be doing the dive. I think we're planning on doing, roughly one every stage. So you can. Don't worry, I'm not going to only make this shitty podcast with Travis. We'll still make my good content with Riot. So fear not.
Yeah.
Good cats.
That good content where they will take calls pre-screened. They won't do the show live.
Yeah.
It's all...
Yeah, you get all
the coward show, I believe, is what we call that.
I mean, who else will? How on the dive? No one's going to call in, make a point, and then say, "I actually haven't thought about it at all."
Yeah, exactly. How boring and mundane is your show? Where you can, if you tune in early enough, Freak might have an epileptic seizure ready for you to watch. Anyway,
what?
I've got something to shout out. Mark and I posted the next video of our review of the Cosmere. Wait, I don't think I can. Wait, they're both Macmillan, I think. And this book is by. You know what? We're gonna pause this really quickly because I don't know if this is a competitor to the bounty that we're doing at the moment. But there's something on the book channel. Go check it out. Anyway, we have another episode of Run It coming out. I did a video highlighting all the free agents that are going to be, unless they resign, available on the LCS. That's banging right now on the YouTube channel, Kelsey being one of the names on that list. We've got another episode of Run It, which will be focused on NA as a region compared to some of these other regions statistically. And then I have an interview with Wendy that went up on the channel. It's an LPL host and an interview. We talked about her at the start of the show. So go check all that content out. We got some world stuff going. Other than that, that's been Hotline League. Thank you to Kelsey and Hysterics for coming on, and Mark for existing. And this has been Hotline League, episode 140.